All right, welcome. This is Xbox 2, episode 231. Hopefully everything is come across perfectly. Let me know in the chat if it is. I'm one of your hosts, Rand 19, the man with the million. And with me, as always, we have managing editor, Windows Central, Jez Cordan. Joining us. Cordan. I thought about spicing up your last name a little bit, Jez Cordan. Sounds
like almost French.
Sounds a lot better. You got the je ne sais quoi behind it,
Je ne sais quoi? Jesus. Mm-hmm. Oh, is this the cultured podcast now?
Yes. This is Xbox 2 Cultured Edition because it's the second podcast of the week, so we got to change it up a bit. You know what I mean?
Sounds good to me, bro. But yeah, how are you? How are you doing? You had a good week?
Yeah. Week's been all right. It's a short week. We did 2 podcasts this week so far. This is the third one. I was thinking about today. I was like, man, didn't we just do a podcast Monday and Tuesday? It seems like it wasn't like, oh yeah. But we're here again because there's always something to talk about in the realm of Xbox. There's always something. You guys know how, the week of the showcase, the week after, everybody's like, yeah, Xbox is back. It's like that meme. Xbox is back. Xbox is dead. Xbox is back. Xbox is dead. And then the high of the showcase, and everybody was like, yeah, Xbox did really well. Literally only lasted, a week? Because the Nintendo Direct happened this week, and suddenly everyone's like, sorry, Xbox, Nintendo came and showed you a new Zelda game, so they win, right? And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, by the way, there's some of these other games that are not coming to Xbox 2, and then all of a sudden it went from, man, Xbox is doing really well, look at all these games, to Xbox is dead again, quickly. How it's like week to week, every single week. It's a change of we up, we down, we up, we down, we up, we down. And so there's always something to talk about.
Yeah. It is, yeah. I mean, it's surprising because I when we did the podcast on Monday, I was thinking, oh man, we're not gonna have a lot to talk about by Friday, but there is actually a ton to talk about this week. Matt Booty had an interview with Variety, which gave us a bunch of new information. Also, Microsoft announced its Gamescom stuff, so we can speculate about that. Still got a little bit left to talk about Summer Game Fest as well. Missed out some stuff there, but yeah, should be a good show.
Yeah. How are you settling in? You feeling any better? You had the dreaded C word.
Yes, good old COVID. I feel all right now. Like my throat's still a bit, I don't know, scratchy, but yeah, mostly fine. Mostly fine. I say 90%. We're back to 90%.
Back to 90%. You seemed to be at 90% on Monday, so you're doing better though.
Yeah, I'm doing better. Doing good. I'm rocking and rolling. I've slept all day, so hopefully we're in for a high energy, high stakes.
You don't sound high energy right now.
No?
You need to get into. You need to maybe get into it a little bit.
Oh, okay, fine. Well, I just finished work, so I'm I'm still wound up. So I need to get into relaxation weekend mode, I think. But yeah, work's full on because
what is your plans for the weekend? What are you doing with the GF, with the girlfriend, soon to be?
We are actually
the waifu.
We're actually going fossil hunting, man.
Fossil hunting. I hear fossils are fake, fake news type thing. There's no such thing as dinosaurs and fossils. That's what TikTok and YouTube shorts say.
Yeah, I have heard that, but yeah, there's like a mine nearish to where we live where there's just tons of fossils. You can just go and dig. You pay a bunch of money and they give you a hammer and chisel, and you can dig up a fossil and take it home. So, they're only trilobites or ammonites and stuff like that. But we're gonna rock some fossil hunting,
dude. You're like the only person I've ever say. So, what are you doing this weekend? And they reply back, I'm going searching for some fossils.
Yeah.
Where do you even go to search for some fossils?
I don't know. It's a whole thing.
It is a whole thing. Who planned this? Who planned this? This has to be your girlfriend. There's no way you were like, you know what would be great to do?
No,
fossil hunting.
We both talked about it for a while. I wanted to be a paleontologist when I was a kid.
Oh, jeez.
I did.
What was your favorite dinosaur?
Baryonyx, man. It's all about Baryonyx, baby. It's a British dinosaur. But, you know, there's a whole dinosaur patriotism.
I didn't know you had that much interest in paleontology.
Yeah, I like dinosaurs.
And
I
mean, who doesn't love dinosaurs, especially as a kid? But
yeah,
I didn't.
Vaguely into that stuff. There's some
Honestly,
YouTube channels I watch, like the sometimes it's sort of like it's a comfort thing. I'll lie in bed with like some sandwiches and watch some YouTube videos about, you know, the Cretaceous period, stuff like that. I'm a nerd.
You watch those Discovery shows or whatever after you watch, like, hey, here's a marathon of Naked and Afraid, followed up by Fossil Hunters.
Yeah,
that just hits the spot, right?
Yeah, it just hits the spot, man.
I mean, I didn't think we'd when I think of the things that would happen today, I didn't think I'd hear you use the words fossil and hunters, and essentially,
I'm just full of surprises.
You are full of surprises. You are definitely full of surprises. Well, welcome everybody to the Xbox 2 podcast. We are glad you are here on this Friday, June 21st. It is really hot outside. It's been hot out all week. Currently, here in Chicago, or at least the southern suburbs of Chicago, it is a sweltering 92 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's a lot.
Which I think is something like 40 degrees Celsius or something, maybe? I'm not really sure what the conversion is.
That is my, that's just so you know, that is my personal nightmare. That sounds absolutely
92
horrible.
Degrees Fahrenheit?
Yeah, that sounds awful. So.
And it's humid outside, so when you step outside, it's sometimes you get it where it's like hot, but it's not that dry heat. It's not humid outside, so it's okay. But it's humid as a mofo out there. So like you get out there, you do a couple things, and all of a sudden you're just sweating buckets because it's just that's humid weather. Yeah, it's pretty bad. I don't know. Is it pretty hot in the UK as well?
I'm in Germany, but
you're in Germany. I always forget sometimes where you're at. Germany, UK, LA.
Yeah,
you're Jez across the world.
I'm Jez across the world. It has been quite warm, but the heat broke today, and now it's raining. So I'm currently basking in lovely fresh air blowing in through the window. So yeah, I don't know. It hasn't really been that hot yet, like the kind of heat you're experiencing. But I'm actually going back to England in a couple of weeks, so I might actually miss the German heat completely because I don't think England's going to be that warm this year. But we'll see. Apparently, Britain is forecast 50 days of rain, so maybe Britain won't have
50 days of rain. Is the country going to be underwater or something? What's going on?
Apparently, I mean, it might just be a sensational tabloid headline, maybe, but I wouldn't complain. I mean, I don't live near a river though.
You just live near an ocean on all sides because you know the island and everything.
Nah, I live right in the middle. So like
middle.
I live right smack in the middle of England. So like if the polar ice caps did melt, they'd just be me left.
Just would be you. I mean, I'm sure I would be okay. I think I'd be all right considering I'm in sort of the middle of the U.S. Not really by any coastal cities. I don't know if Lake Michigan would flood, but I think I'm far enough away from Lake Michigan where it wouldn't matter, potentially. So we're all good. Even if the apocalypse happened, me and Jez be still sitting here doing Xbox 2, I guess.
How did we end up talking about the weather?
I don't know.
Rising sea levels.
I don't know.
Let's talk about some.
Because you were talking about fossil hunting.
That is true.
Yeah.
We should do some housekeeping.
Yeah, let's get some housekeeping. Get into the show and have a good time. So if you guys could do us a huge favor, make sure you hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new. Check out the Patreon, all that good stuff. But Jez, this episode is brought to us by Manscaped, is it not?
Indeed, but do the shoutouts first.
Oh, okay. You want me to do the shoutouts first? All right. So Patreon people, we love every single one of you. Hopefully you enjoyed the latest Xbox 2 Plus 1, which we did on Tuesday. Our guest was David Jaffe, legendary game designer. He's got his own YouTube channel where he has thoughts about things. And he joined us for a couple hours, and we Talked about everything you could possibly imagine, including that booty juice. The booty juice. So you can check out that show right now on Patreon. It'll be available to everybody sometime next week. And speaking of next week, we have Paris Lilly of Kind of Funny Games Cast and Gamertag Radio joining us for another Xbox 2+1 on Wednesday, not Tuesday, Wednesday. So that should be fun as well. So, but we do have some shout outs here. Let me get to them. We have Inner Machine, Straight Allure, Xbox Dave, Jay Peltier, Thurgus, Christian the Password, Holy Dark Death, Steve Stompy, James Wiseau, Trixar for Trey, Battered Haddock, Army Dude 52C, Ryan Kipple, Foreign Object, Mythic Marty, Moronic Donkey 99, Randall Thor 19, Silas, Eric Gregory, James Moore, Fantasticals, K-Trox, Bright Tundra 1, Discarded Caboose, Justin Duel, Frank Mariano, PB Broking, Ace and Madison, Governor Graham, Dizzy Huffin, Achievement, The Scarecrow 121, Darren Tropy, Prof. JJJ, Ghostface Killer, and Wolfgang KPZ. Thank you guys for all the support. And the question and answer thread is up. If you haven't dropped by there to get your question in, so we'll answer that at the end of the show, please do so. So thank you to all the wonderful patrons for supporting this podcast. Jez?
Yes. And we've also got an epic sponsorship from our friends over at Manscaped, who are once again back. And Rand, it is Smooth Sack Summer. You like that? Smooth Sack Summer?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes,
that.
I mean I do.
Ladies
like that.
and
yes, smooth. Did you come up with that? Is that a Jezism?
No, this is straight from the horse's mouth.
Okay, straight from the horse's mouth. The
Smooth
Sack Summer, the SSS.
Smooth Sack Summer. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to announce that Smooth Sack Summer is officially upon us. When you're playing in the summer sun, make sure you're groomed even in places where the sun don't shine. Thanks to our friends over at Manscaped, you can make this season your smoothest yet.
Mm-hmm.
The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is the ultimate bundle to keep your boys downstairs cool while looking hot. Join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Get 20% off and free shipping when you go to manscaped.com and use code XB2. Summertime and the trimming is easy.
Yeah.
The Manscaped.
Summertime and the trimming is easy. I love it.
The Manscaped
Smooth
Performance
Sack
Pack.
Summer.
Be quiet, Rand. I gotta get through this.
Smooth.
The Manscaped Performance Package 5.0 Ultra has everything you need to prepare that summer bod. Every man knows how scary it is. It's like when going for a close shave below the belt. That's why I trust Manscaped for all my sensitive areas. Inside this package, you'll find the star of the show, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Their 5th generation trimmer features 2 interchangeable next generation skin safe blade heads. A standard one for taking a little off the top, and a foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. Now that you have the perfect trim, use Manscaped's liquid formulations to keep that freshness even at the hottest summer barbecues. The Crop Soother Aftershave Lotion and the Crop Preserver Anti-Chafe Ball Deodorant.
Jesus.
Once they touch your sack, you'll never go back. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code XB2 at manscaped.com. That's XB and number 2 for 20% off and free worldwide shipping. Being maidenless is no excuse for tarnished balls.
Oh, there it is. I like that.
I did that bit.
That wasn't part of it. That was no. Jez approved there.
Yeah, I threw that
Being maidenless.
No, it is. It's Shadow of the Erd Tree week, right?
Yes, it is Shadow of the Erd Tree week. Are you celebrating Shadow of the Erd Tree?
I am a little bit. I started playing it a little bit again.
Yeah.
I finally got to Langdale Capital after how many years?
That's
I picked
right.
up
You never finished Elden Ring. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, I don't know.
Jez
I got burned
Corden.
out.
Name a more iconic duo. Jez Corden and not finishing games. Damn, son.
Yeah, I know, right? But funnily enough, I got 200 hours in the game because I had one save file for playing a mage, one save file for playing a sort of great sword warrior build, and then I had another save for bows because we were writing guides, right? So I was like, okay, well, I've done my mage guide now. Now I'm gonna go back and do a warrior build. And then, like, by the time I got to the Renala's Harry Potter place the third time, I was just kind of like, oh man, I'm just super burned out now. But you know, it's part of the job. But I went back to my mage save, which is my main. Got to Langdale Capital.
Right.
I was just around the corner from the entrance, and I'm starting to enjoy it again. So
Okay, that's good.
But yeah, the man, it's so gorgeous, man. The capital. You've done that, right?
I mean, yes.
You've
Yes. You always say I cheated because I got the 3 ending achievements in one go because I used the cloud save trick to be able to do it.
I forgot that you cheated.
Yeah. So, yeah, I haven't, I don't know. It's one of those things where I have to kind of be in the mood to play a punishing Souls-like, because I'm not necessarily the biggest fan. Well, we've gone over this about my love affair or disdain for From Software. Like, I didn't care for Dark Souls 1, and I didn't play Dark Souls 2 or 3. However, I did play Bloodborne, and I enjoyed that quite a bit. And I love Sekiro. Sekiro's probably my favorite game from Software. I mean, I know
Sekiro, like, insanely.
It is insanely difficult.
Than Elden Ring?
It is. Well, I thought it was more difficult than Elden Ring. But there was just something pure about Sekiro that I enjoyed. Maybe it was the action element. Maybe it was the pairing. Maybe it was because, I don't know, there was just something unique about that game that I really appreciated. And yeah, like, overcoming that challenge was also something like, I can do this. Like you say to yourself, like, I can beat this. You know, because all my friends were playing at the same time, right? All my close friends we were all playing it. So it was like, well, if Mr. Black Magic's going to beat this, or Maka's going to beat this, or Gopher's going to beat this, or whatever, or Sam's going to beat this, I got to beat it too. I can't be the only one who can't overcome the difficulty and beat Sekiro, right? Sam dropped out. He didn't beat it because he's just, that's how Sam is. He just, he's too busy, or says he's too busy. But everybody else did. And I love Sekiro. It was my game of the year in 2019. I still think it's their best game. Obviously people will have their quibbles. Everyone's going to have their own favorite From Software game, even going back to the 360 days when I think they did Ninja Blade. It was like an Xbox exclusive, or
yeah, I owned that. I actually owned that on disc.
I never played that one, but did they do Enchanted Arms? I forget. I'm not exactly sure what From Software's catalog
what did they do Enchanted
looks like before Demon Souls and stuff, right? So
yeah. I remember if
that's why I was kind of hesitant to play Elden Ring at first, because I wasn't a fan of Dark Souls, and Elden Ring is essentially Dark Souls open world. So I started playing Elden Ring, and I finished it, and it was my game of the year for 2022. Essentially, I still think it might be game of the generation. I think it's that good, and I sort of need to be in the mindset to play that game, and I'm not currently. I might be in like a few days, because my finger's been hovering over the button to buy the DLC, and I'll probably end up playing it, maybe checking it out sometime this weekend. I've been seeing like Gene Park go crazy about the game on Twitter, like he's tweeting every 2 minutes about it. And all the reviews and all the stuff is like, man, you thought, this was hard. This is even way harder. And it's like, well, okay. That's interesting. So we'll see. I'll probably get to it. There's also a part of me that wants to do Cyberpunk first, and then go to Shadow of the Erdtree after I finish. Because I want to do Cyberpunk.
You're never going to play Cyberpunk.
No, here's the thing. I will. And that's probably what I'm going to play next. I'm probably going to do Cyberpunk. And then when I'm done with that, do Shadow of the Erdtree. Because I'm sort of feeling like it's time, finally, to play that game.
You've been saying that since December,
I know, but here's the thing. I actually do finish what I say I'm going to do. I actually, you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't say, hey, I'm going to beat Persona 5 in 2022, and here we are in 2024, and I still haven't beaten Persona 5. You know what I mean? Uh-oh.
Okay. Did I get disconnected?
No. Did we? I mean, I can hear you.
And my PC lagged or something. Something wrong with my PC. I think it might be overheating.
Hmm.
It does feel hot. Shit. Feels really hot. Actually, ow, can't. Okay, that's scary. That's scary.
Your PC's
Oh,
that
man.
hot where it's like melting through the chassis?
Well, it's hot. It's hot to the touch. Yeah, it is.
Jeez.
But
And all you're
we should
doing is
be- we should be
podcasting.
fine.
How's it that hot?
I don't know, man. It might just be full of dust. I might just need to clean it out. You do that.
You
Do that every now and then. Have you ever
should clean
cleaned
it
out
up.
your computer?
Yeah, I cleaned it out.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can see the beautiful insides of this PC and the
Yeah,
4090 and all the stuff. So it's like, oh yeah, look at all that. It's all sexy stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh no, Zane said we're disconnected. Or is it going?
Did
I don't
we?
know.
Let me check. Let me check OBS.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Notifications. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't say we disconnected. I mean, we're still
Oh,
good,
right.
right? Everybody can hear us still.
Yep. I think so. Just me then.
It's just
Yeah.
you.
What do you want to talk about first? 'Cause there's
What
quite a
do
lot
I
of
want to
stuff
talk
get
about
through.
first? Let me get through some of the super chats, and then we will get into the topics at large. We have one here from Sauce Made Dragon with the $9.99. He's actually got two of them. He said, "Did Phil Spencer break into Sugimoto's house one morning and fart in his cereal? Is that the reason we can't have the Marvel vs. Capcom collection on Xbox? Because the MT framework issue sounds dumb to me." But he also says, "I'll be over this when I'm playing Black Ops 6, Doom, Fable, and Gears on Game Pass, but this whole month I'm going to be pissed." Love the show, guys. Keep it up. Well, I guess there's your first topic, Jess, since it came up in the first super chat. I mentioned at the beginning of the show how everybody was pumped about Xbox and their showcase and their future lineup and essentially what looked like their roadmap of games this year, plus next year, plus 2026. Even though Tom Warren sort of says Gears might be coming in 2025. And I think even in the last podcast, you mentioned that you had heard potentially State of Decay 3 might be next year.
Yeah, I think
I
that's
don't-
the plan.
I don't
but
believe
we'll
either of
see.
those, personally. I think they're both going to be firmly 2026.
Yeah, maybe. I think they were genuinely targeting 20.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's
25,
possible
but-
they were. Maybe we could have it out then, but I think they'll save it for 2026.
Save it. You mean even if it's ready? Or
Well,
they'll just keep, building it up or what?
I sort of feel like because if they felt confident enough, I feel like there would have been a date in the trailers.
Fair enough.
I know that's kind of the way I look. Like when you look at last year, when you had Fable and you had South of Midnight and you had Clockwork Revolution, I had heard that those games could possibly come in 2025, or at least some of them, or 2024 rather. But they weren't dated just because they weren't confident. And then you get to this year, and they dated them 2025. So I feel like the same thing will happen with both those games, where it's like maybe they could if they rush it, or maybe things go well. But the fact that it's not dated shows that they're not confident in that. I guess maybe we'll find out next year if we go to the showcase in 2025 and they're like, oh, by the way, it's coming this year. But I wouldn't expect. I'm personally not expecting it to. But part of the reasons why there's a lot of talk about Xbox being dead again this week after being alive the previous week is there was a game at the Nintendo Direct, the Marvel vs. Capcom collection, which included, I believe, like seven different games in this collection from Capcom, especially the cult classic and favorite Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which I believe was delisted years ago, but it's a fighting game that the fighting game community loves. And it's exclusively not coming to Xbox. So it's on PlayStation 4,
Indeed.
and it's on PC, and it's on Switch. And this led people to get really angry, question why it's not coming to the platform. Obviously, people are like, well, if we can't even get third-party games on here, and Xbox is going to be putting their own first-party games everywhere else, what's the point of even investing in the platform itself? Right, opening up those can of worms. People questioning why Capcom, like they bring their big games to the platform. In fact, they got like that the Game Pass, that I forget the name of the game.
Pinitsugami, Path of the
Yeah,
Goddess.
that's coming in July next month. The Game Pass, all their big games
I
come.
played that, by the way.
Did you?
Fantastic. Yeah.
It's a really good.
You won't like it. It's fantastic.
What about it wouldn't I like? Is it the tower defense force aspect of it?
Yeah, it's a tower defense game.
I mean, I'm not.
But it,
Eh.
so I mean, sort of. You know, in Final Fantasy VII, where there's that part where you have to sort of position little dudes
Yes.
and defend. It's like that on steroids. But
Okay.
it has like unique bosses and a bunch of other cool stuff. You know, and it does have the hack and slash component and dodging and parrying and stuff like that. It's a really unique game.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. But I think I don't know people who don't like the strategic elements to some games. I don't think they'll gel with it. But the good thing about it is it's coming down onto Game Pass, so you
That
can
is
try
true.
it without any sort of risk. If you don't like it, then you don't have to
Right.
play it. You know.
So Capcom, I mean, Xbox has been struggling to get support from, Atlas and Square Enix, and it seems like okay, Atlas is fully on board finally with the Persona games and stuff. Square Enix, that Phil Spencer image where it was the triple handshake that everybody likes to use on Twitter, and more games that Square Enix has announced for the platform, including like a Dragon Age remaster. And although I do think like Fear Effect is not coming, there's that one, and Romancing Saga 2, but some of the other ones are. But specifically Capcom, sometimes they'll put like Phoenix Wright Collection on Xbox, which probably doesn't sell particularly too well. But then like a Mega Man Legends game won't come, and then this won't come. So it opens up this can of worms. Like, what is the reason for it? Why is it on everywhere else except the Xbox platform?
Mm-hmm.
Is it because the games wouldn't sell on Xbox, so they're just not going to put it on there? Or is there some other reason? And I believe Windows Central had an article. You didn't write it, but you did contribute to it. I think it was John Muncher on Twitter kind of put it out there that he thought it might be something to do with the MT framework on the Xbox One that isn't supported anymore, and it kind of makes sense. And then you wrote in your article that you talked to some sources, and that's like essentially what's going on. So what's going on, Jez? What's going on with the Marvel vs. Capcom collection?
Well, I wasn't aware of Joe Munch's tweet, right? But then someone from Xbox linked it to me, and they were just like, "Yep." So like, and I spoke to them a little bit more, and they were like, and I don't know like the full technical details here, but something to do with porting older MT framework games to Xbox is not something that Capcom has a system in place for right now. And this affects like a range of games that have online services or systems, including like Monster Hunter Stories and stuff like that. Now, it's not just MT framework, but it's a bunch of other stuff too, and about having a sort of developer pipeline in place to make that happen. Now, it's not impossible for this to work on Xbox, but the problem is it would require some form of investment. They've already got the pipeline in place for all the platforms, so to get the pipeline in place for Xbox would eat into the margins of what they're going to make realistically on these games anyway, which probably ain't a ton, These were
I think Marvel's Capcom collection will sell decently.
on Xbox though.
Well, not necessarily on Xbox, but overall will sell pretty good. I think.
If you weren't expecting it to sell well on Xbox, and then you factor in the fact of the matter that you've got to do a little bit extra work to set up that pipeline, then it's just a hard business decision that I don't think it's worth the risk. My argument is that Microsoft has a game preservation team, literally a team dedicated to game preservation. This is literally their remit. So, like, my opinion is Microsoft should shoulder some of the burden if they truly are interested in game preservation. Because some of these games were on, some of them weren't, but some of them were on previous Xbox systems. If this is a game preservation issue, they should float some of the bill, especially in view of the fact that, it's another bunch of games that Xbox fans aren't getting, that other platforms are getting.
Right.
So, I would get on Xbox. I've bitched and moaned about Monster Hunter Stories, and as a Monster Hunter fan, it's like, Monster Hunter is one of my franchises.
Because it affected you, right? Because that's the thing. Is like sometimes when these things happen, like here's what I think about this, right? I'm of two minds. Personally, I don't care that Marvel vs. Capcom isn't coming to platform because I wouldn't play it. I'm not interested in it. So it's not a game I would play. So it not coming to Xbox doesn't mean anything to me. However, I also know there are people that do care about it. And honestly, anytime games skip your platform is not good. And you want to minimize that as much as you possibly can. So, because I don't know, to me, when you see a trailer and it says PS4, PS5, or just PS5, Switch, and PC, and the only one left out is Xbox, and it's essentially just, it's that SpongeBob meme of Squidward up in his little house looking down at Patrick and SpongeBob, running through the field, essentially. It makes the Xbox platform seem lesser than. Like, why aren't you getting it when everybody else is? So it really creates this, I don't know, like this thought, this it's not perspective I wanted to use, or perception. The perception that you are less than the other platform holders.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
While I don't care, and I have no interest in playing Marvel vs. Capcom 2, so it's not one of those things where I'm like, God damn it. But it was when, Oxenfree 2 didn't come to the platform. It came everywhere else. And it was a game I was looking forward to because I enjoyed the first game. And it was like, well, fuck. Why is it coming to Xbox? This sucks. I don't know, whatever reasons why. And I played it on PlayStation, right? But we do see this happens, especially with the older games. Like I mentioned, Fear Effect's not coming. There's this other Fighting Force collection that was announced recently that's not coming as well. And it does make you just being like, this isn't a good look for the platform where games skip, for whatever reason. If it was just, it's a Switch only and PC, you'd be like, all right, fine. They just wanted to target the Switch, but it's every platform. And yeah, it just makes Xbox look bad that they don't get these games that everybody else does. And you're right, I agree with you. If you have this thing set up where it's a game preservation team and you want to preserve all this stuff, then you should probably be helping get these games to be on your platform so you can preserve them for the future. I mean, I'd be doing it just because they might be looking at it like, in the grand scheme of things, the game not coming to the platform doesn't matter. Right? They might take that high-end approach of as long as we get Resident Evil 9s and, the Monster Hunters, the new Monster Hunters, all the bigger games, that it doesn't, we're not going to spend any extra money to get these other games, these collections. It's this whatever. But I think, no, because I do think it does matter because it creates the perception among people that, when you're choosing a system, that maybe the other ones are better because they get more games, essentially, right? I don't know. Although I will say, it is funny how the beginning of this generation started when we were talking about the Series X and the PS5 and talking about back and pat, and there were a lot of people out there being like, I don't buy new consoles to play old games, right? Mm-hmm. How often did we hear that, Jez? I don't buy new consoles to play old games. And what are we bitching about? Or at least what are we talking about as the first topic of this podcast? Games from 1990, whatever year they came from. Old games. Yes. And it's only an issue because it's coming everywhere, not on Xbox, but they are older games. So it's sort of funny to look back on and being like, I remember when people bitched about this, about new consoles should be for new games and not old stuff. And here we are bitching about collections not coming to the platform that we play on, right? But I don't know. Do you have anything more to add to this? Because,
Nah, not exactly. I mean, it's like you said, a bunch of people on Twitter were saying to me like, oh, who cares? It's only old games, right? And it's like, yeah, it's only old games until it's a game you want.
Exactly. Until it's a game that means something to you.
Yeah, I'm probably the only person who cares about Monster Hunter Stories coming at Xbox or xCloud or whatever like that. I thought for years Stories would be such a great game for xCloud because it was a mobile game originally anyway. It's turn-based, so you don't have to worry about latency. and it's fun as hell. You know, it's a nice little fun little Pokemon-ish kind of Monster Hunter game. And I was absolutely stoked for the idea that they should port this. And then they do go and do the port, and boom, it's exclusively not on Xbox. You know, and it's really annoying because, you know, as someone who is a Monster Hunter fan and wants everything Monster Hunter on my console, it was really cool when we got like Monster Hunter Rise into Game Pass. And Microsoft like really started the year strong there by putting Monster Hunter Rise into Game Pass that year. It was last year, right? Um,
Or was the year
it this year?
before? I mean, because I think World
I can't
and
remember.
World was in Game Pass for a while, and then the
World was
new
in Game Pass for a while, and Rise was as well.
and
Yeah.
then Rise was as well. So they've
So
had both
like,
Monster Hunter games in there.
yeah. So you know, it's not an issue of like Capcom being like, you know, we don't want to work with Xbox, because clearly they do. You know, Path of the Goddess is coming to Game Pass, so clearly Capcom believes in Game Pass, or at least they believe in money. But I think like
Who
they've just
doesn't
done a
believe in money?
yeah, exactly. But like, you know, they've clearly just done a cost benefit analysis here, and they've just realized that, oh shit, you know, this isn't going to be worthwhile. You know, for the amount of work we've got to put in, we're probably not going to make that much profit. So they probably just figured, let's just you know, try and make a little bit of cash with PlayStation, Nintendo, or whatever, and then leave it at that. And I'm sure, like, if they did do a future game, that probably would end up coming to Xbox. Like, I've seen people suggest it's because Spider-Man's there, and it's like, yeah, but to
No.
Sony, yeah, it's nothing to do with that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is kind of funny that you would think a new Marvel vs. Capcom game probably wouldn't even come to Switch, but would come to Xbox.
Mm.
So it's funny in that regard. Or maybe it would actually come to the Switch too, depending on how powerful the system is. You know, but
Yeah, it's sad, but it is what it is, and I hope that Microsoft can invest and get it sorted, because it's another one of them. It's like the app gap, you know, and I think like support, people are a bit sensitive about support when it comes to Xbox, because you know there's this whole like one of the worries with this whole exclusivity mission, which, you know, we're gonna talk about in a minute with Matt Booty's comments on it.
booty.
Like the booty time. There is this sort of whole sort of perception that if, you know, Xbox sales start to go down because there's no exclusives, then developers won't think it's worth the money. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if Xbox, and you have to wonder, like, if Xbox was a bigger platform, would they spend the money to set up that pipeline for the MT framework port effort or whatever? But yeah, it's on Microsoft to fix that. It's on Microsoft to do some investment in Capcom and say, look, we want to help you guys get this up and running and stuff. And
Yep.
yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I do want to talk about games we've been playing quickly, because, you know, video game podcasts, playing video games. Have you been? I know you're all over the place. Said you were playing Elden Ring. You're probably also playing Overwatch 2. You're playing Diablo 4. You're playing your beloved games as a service, live service games that are just with you always, right? Have you played anything else recently outside of
Nope.
those? World of
Nope,
Warcraft.
Not really. I mean, I've dabbled a little bit in Elden Ring. The
Dabbling.
past week,
Mm-hmm.
dabbling. I played some Diablo again. Finish off the battle pass there, and other than that, just nothing. I haven't had time, man. This week's been full on.
Full
I'm
on.
really, really busy. There's a lot of games I do want to play. I say this all the time, but like, I really need some just time off. I might just book some time off.
What are you
and just
playing right
play.
now? What's the game that
I'm not playing anything
you're
right
not
now.
playing anything?
Not playing
We got
Yeah.
Jez's full attention right now, everybody. Because sometimes Jez, you know, not on camera, so Jez can kind of just play what he wants. Jez also, I remember you saying look forward to doing the podcast because you could actually sit down and then play some Overwatch for a few hours or whatever,
Yeah.
and you don't need to think while playing Overwatch. You just do. So it was just
Well, the
easy
issue
for you
is
to do
like,
that.
some people who've seen me stream games recently, they'll have, like, on camera, they'll have seen like how high up I look at the ceiling,
Yeah, you
because
do.
I've mounted my TV way too high up. So like, one of the reasons I don't play whilst podcasting anymore is because it injures me.
Ooh.
I actually come off the podcast and it's like, oh
Ooh.
my god, that actually really hurts my neck. But yeah, my setup's not good for gaming here right now. I need to change it. But I ain't had time, man. I ain't had
Yeah.
time.
So I played
Alright,
that.
if I don't need to lean into the mic.
I played
But if I have
Alan
to
Wake
lean
2,
into the mic,
the Alan Wake 2 DLC. So
Hmm.
Yeah, that was announced at Summer Games Fest. And it was like, oh, it's coming tomorrow. And you know me, Alan Wake 2, love Alan Wake 1. Alan Wake 2 is my game of the year. There's 2 expansions coming for the game. This one was the first one, set around Night Springs, these kind of Twin Peaks stories. And man, there's a lot of fan service in this one because it's 3 episodes short, right? Each episode is probably 35 to 45 minutes in length. The first episode you play as, I forget the character's name, but the waitress that's in love with Alan Wake. And you're basically like racing off to save him. And it's like high octane, really fast, over the top combat. I mean, they give you like a shotgun with essentially like 200 shotgun shells. And like you're constantly fighting people. And this isn't a game where ammo was scarce, right? And it was, the enemy encounters were, I wouldn't say few and far between, but they were paced far enough apart where you could, build up that tension, where this one's just, you got enemies running at you constantly. But it's okay because you got 300 bullets for your shotgun and 50 bullets for your rifle, and it's just a fun little DLC with the character. It was just other word to say is just fun, right? Really didn't have any meaning to the overall meta of the game. Just was really quirky. And it's just all right, cool. Let's have some combat with essentially no stakes because you have all the weapons and all the bullets. And then it started to get more interesting because the second episode had to deal with the main character from Control, I forget, Jessica. She was Beth from Quantum Break, right? And you're looking for, because they reuse all the some of the locations from Alan Wake 2 here, but they kind of changed the lighting a bit, and they cordon off areas. So when you play as her, even though you don't have her psychic abilities, like you're not flying around and throwing things like she does in her game Control, you're at the coffee park and you have a pistol that basically has 400 bullets. So once again, when you get into fights, you have all the ammo that you need. And this one was kind of a more cerebral, slow-paced, trying to figure out what's exactly going on here. But my favorite was the third one, because I think that is, like, it's tough to really say whether the first 2 had any really significant ties to the overall meta-narrative of Alan Wake and Control and the universe that they're building. The third one definitely did, because the third one had Shawn Ashmore in it. He was, the police detective in Alan Wake 2. He was also the main character in Quantum Break. And there are some callbacks to Quantum Break in this, Jez, because essentially in this one, you're hopping the metaverse, where Warland Door is kind of going around killing other versions of you. So you're jumping different, worlds. Some of them really weird looking, some of them really cool, but there is this thing where you actually do get to interact with, Beth, main character from Control, Jess, whatever her name is. And they even sort of reference Quantum Break a couple times, which I thought was super interesting and something we would never, ever get to see in any of these games. So I don't know if we'll ever see a Quantum Break 2. I mean, you always ask me, like, hey, what's your dream game announcement or whatever? And it's maybe not necessarily like a dream game announcement, because who wouldn't want a Half-Life 3? Who wouldn't want Valve to come out and be like, you know what, we're actually doing a proper Half-Life 3? I'd love that because I love Half-Life. But if we're talking about like Xbox, I know people will be like, give me my Banjo game. Sorry, Banjo Bros. I feel for you, and I want you to get your game, but you're probably never going to get your game. Just like I'm never going to get the game that I want from them, and that's Quantum Break 2. Because there is a little, like, they hint at it, and they talk, and it's just like, oh man, this is cool, because it does have some ramifications for the story in Alan Wake and the metaverse that they're building. It was a really, really cool DLC, that lasts maybe 2 hours. the 3 episodes when you play them all back to back to back to back. But it's super cool. Very just I don't know. It was just fun. It wasn't really anything super serious. It was just some really cool stuff that was going on in these DLCs. But there is one more expansion coming. I think it's called the Lake House, but that's going to be the one with Alan Wake and Saga, which I don't know if it's going to be a continuation of the main game, but they're both going to be in it. This was kind of just some side stuff, which still was pretty damn fun. So I played that. And then I also played the game that's currently being showcased right now, and that's Still Wakes the Deep. New release on Xbox this week. Hit on Game Pass day 1 as well. And it's a pretty good one, Jez. I know it's what people would classify as a walking sim. You're a electrician on an oil rig, and shit goes down, and bad things start to happen. Monsters start to show up, and you kind of have that. It's kind of very like Soma in that regard, where the monsters show up. You can't hurt them or damage them. All you can really do is hide from them or distract them to get past them. In that regard,
I don't like that. I don't like horror games where you can't fight back. Just bores me, man.
Yeah, you know, like
is that the gameplay footage you've got now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that, man. I want a gun. I want a weapon.
You're botting, by the way.
Right.
You're roboting. I don't know if you want to drop out of the call and come back in or not, but yeah, it's the atmosphere is through the roof. I don't know if an oil rig actually looks like this, but the oil rig feels like a secondary character at times. And I don't really want to get into like story-related stuff or some of the things that go on, but the monster designs and like the things like the ooze or whatever is kind of very creepy looking, especially when you look at it. And I mean, I would say first playthrough is probably 5.5, 6 hours. So depending on how long it takes you to figure out some things. But if you enjoy this genre, like I enjoy this genre, I think it's worth your time. I think it's worth your time checking it out. It may not be for someone like Jez who doesn't like this sort of stuff, but for anybody that does, I think this is a good one in my opinion. This is what were you saying?
Guybrush described it. I like how Guybrush described it.
Okay.
I love a good coward simulator.
When
you can't fight back and you're just running away, it's a coward simulator.
Well, no, because the dude is just a regular dude and he doesn't want to do any of the things you're doing. People will be like, I need you to go here to do this, and you're all scared because there's things everywhere, and you know the oil rig's been destroyed. So, you know, I'm surprised there hasn't been a lot of discourse surrounding yellow paint again, because they mark the right path to go with yellow paint or yellow ledges in this, or yellow whatever, where there's usually only like one way to go, the linear path, where you're climbing down ladders, climbing up a ladder, shimmying around an edge, making a jump past something. And I get what you're saying, where it's like, oh, well, I want to kill these enemies, but you don't have shotguns. There's no pistols.
I want one though.
I'm just saying, but I mean, would those sort of things be even there on an oil rig, and would you be able to even get them? Of course they would. The horror tension, it's like Alien Isolation. The horror is knowing something's around you that you can't do anything about, and that you just need to get away from. It's not about taking on the enemy at right on, because that takes away, because then it's a different game at that point. Then it becomes a first-person shooter instead of something like this. So I get the moniker of a coward simulator, but when you actually are playing the game and listening to what's going on, the story that's being told, he's really anything but a coward. He's doing things that other people wouldn't, or other people can't. And then you put yourself in that position, would you do those things? Probably not. You'd be scared out of your mind. But I get it, for some people,
I'd be like, I'd be right there fighting the zombies, bro.
Yeah, I know, and you'd be right there dead, and you just be another zombie for me to avoid as I get off and move on and leave, and you're just a big blob of nothing on the floor.
Rip.
Rip. But anyways, that's Still Wakes to Deep. It's available now, Game Pass. I think it's $35. Price is a little.
It's on Game Pass, all right.
It's on Game Pass on Xbox, so there is that. So $35 for this isn't necessarily a bad price, although some people definitely do look at the length of these games and the price they sometimes charge and are like, that's not worth it. Well, if it's not, then wait for a sale. But as a fan of the genre, because this is more of a horror one. There's different types of these things. This is definitely more horror related. I thought it was well worth playing through. Let's see. We have a member chat from Silas, member for 8 months. Says, Jez, does your girlfriend ever get upset that you spend every Friday night on a 4-hour podcast, or does she wish you had a 4-hour podcast every night? Ooh.
I don't know. I definitely think she doesn't want one every night. But it's part of the job. So we do what we must to pay the bills.
We got Donataku with the 5. Says, Nintendo does what Xbox don't. The Direct was a 10 out of 10. They delivered exclusives, Rand. Also, Metroid Prime 4 graphics better than Redfall on the Series X. And he goes, just kidding, it was a good Direct, but Xbox definitely had the best show of the summer by a large margin. Any chance you'll playing Metroid Prime 4, Rand? There is a chance, for sure. Metroid Prime is something I do like. So, if there was any Switch game I would turn my system on for and play it, or get a Switch 2 for, it would literally be Metroid Prime. Because I ain't about the Nintendo. I ain't about Mario and Luigi. I ain't about Zelda. Did you see they announced the new Zelda game, Jez?
Yeah, and they made Zelda into a girl. I can't believe it.
Unbelievable. Main character is a girl? Unbelievable.
Oh man. Yeah, I was really enjoying Metroid Dread, man. I never finished it. Another one. I wish it was on PC.
What I want to do. You know what's funny? I saw some screenshots of Metroid Prime 4, and I'm like, man, this looks like Halo 5. in a certain way, if you look at it.
But it's gonna be way better because it's Metroid.
Is it though? Yeah, it probably will
be.
Metroid Prime coming in 2025.
Next, they'll make Samus a girl. God, world's gone mad.
Did you check out anything from the Nintendo Direct, Jez? Anything interest you outside of?
No, just Metroid, man. But I cited Jeff Grubb on Twitter. Oh well, I replied to Jeff Grubb. Wasn't really talking to him, but because there's just such an outpouring of nostalgia for Nintendo shows.
Always is.
And people were and there was just so much excitement from the community and stuff like that. And I watch these shows and I'm just like, man, I feel nothing watching Nintendo stuff. I just think like these look like kids games and stuff like that. Like the Metroid Prime is like the only one that looked interesting to me, and it was just like I just don't have any nostalgia for any Nintendo stuff. And I think it's just Sega was just more popular in Europe and the UK and stuff like that. And of course, like Sonic's, hit the bed over the years. And and all the Sega games I used to love, like Gunstar Heroes and all that stuff, are just kind of non-existent now. But I don't have any nostalgia for Nintendo, and I think that really does play a role in me just not caring about what they're doing. But
I mean, we've talked about that. I have the same.
We've talked about it.
I have the same feelings in regards to Nintendo. I didn't really.
I was a Sega kid, man.
I didn't really watch the show, but I did check out some of the trailers later. And I checked out the Zelda one. I checked out Metroid Prime, and I checked out the Mario and Luigi one, and I saw all the stuff they announced, and I was just like, and people were like, they destroyed everybody, Nintendo. And, this is where you realize opinions are a thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I watched the Nintendo show, and somebody could say it was really damn good. But as someone who, I would say it was, I don't even want to say this, but to me, I would say it was a bad show. But then again, I'm not a Nintendo fan, so what does my opinion even matter when it comes to Nintendo?
Yeah, I just literally didn't care about
Right?
anything that
Like,
the show.
yeah,
If Xbox had show, if that was an Xbox show, and instead of like a Zelda game, it was like I don't know, Master Chief. It was exactly the same game, but with Master Chief, and all those kind of games. I just feel like that was just mid as hell, or not even mid. It's just like this just ain't for me. But that's the thing, and Nintendo just ain't for me. And like that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, the Metroid stuff looked really good.
yep.
And people are long suffering for that stuff. I'm sort of like, and how I feel about Pokemon.
You know how I
I
feel
was a
about Pokemon.
I had a Game Boy, and I had every single Pokemon game, but that's it. I didn't have any other games because Nintendo games were just so damn expensive in the UK. They're really, really expensive. Majora's Mask was like 80 quid. It was 79.99, which in today's money is like 100 quid or more. Which is like 110, $20. And I think the only reason it was that expensive was because it was sold out probably or whatever. But I remember seeing that as a kid and my parents being mortified and like, no, you're not a Nintendo kid. You're a Sega kid. Deal with it. Because Sega games are cheap, and they're you could often get them second hand really easily. So even cheaper. So yeah, I just played.
Wasn't it because of the
Sonic all day.
Nintendo cartridges were more expensive to manufacture than say the Genesis
Yeah,
ones?
maybe I don't know, man. I just had so much Sega stuff and just no Nintendo stuff. I had like all the Sega stuff and then a Game Boy for Pokemon. That was it. So, and I do have a ton of nostalgia for Pokemon, even though like I kind of feel like Sword and Shield really broke me out of that because it was just kind of like, well, this is Nintendo just doesn't care. They know they can put in the minimum amount of effort. And yeah, okay, Game Freak, whatever. And people always get mad when I attribute Pokemon games to Nintendo because they're like,
They
"Oh
do.
no, don't be mean to Nintendo. Don't be mean to Nintendo. Blame Game Freak." Okay, well I'll blame Game Freak. Game Freak doesn't really care about taking Pokemon to that next level. So Sword and Shield is just like, 15 frames per second in some areas, and it was just like super brain dead easy. And I was just like, nah. Okay. Do you remember when I punished you and made you play
I
Pokemon Sword
do.
and
I
Shield?
still remember that. I still bear the resentment of it.
Would you have played that game for
No,
achievements back in the day? Back in the day when you were achievement hunting.
Depends. Maybe if it was like a 2-hour game, I probably would have. But if it was something really long, no.
Hmm,
You know.
fair enough.
Yeah. So that's where opinions come in. Like I don't see anything in the Nintendo Direct, but I'm not its target audience, so whatever. So I see people will. It like Jez says, it's just not for me. They're not for me. Like I see that stuff and it doesn't move me in any way, shape, or form, and I just don't care about whatever they're doing.
Oh, there was one thing. There was one thing that was cool, and that was the Dragon Quest remakes, the 2.5D
Yeah,
remakes.
you would care about those more than I would. I don't care about
Yeah,
those.
I care about those, and they're coming to Xbox. So, thanks for the Xbox announcement.
Hey, but
For what?
Nintendo's good at
Go on.
basically giving their fans what they want, though. So their fans want more of that stuff, and they give them more of that stuff. So
Yeah, and it'd be really interesting to see what Nintendo does next gen when they've got a system that's also powerful enough to run like the full slate of games from the Xbox One all the way through to Xbox Series X potentially, or at least the Series S versions. Like, because that's a ton of games that could get ported to the Switch 2. Like, the Switch 2 probably isn't going to be as super duper powerful as some people want it to be. So let's imagine it's sort of Steam Deck kind of level, or maybe a little bit less. Even if it is a little bit less than Steam Deck, it's like thousands of games that could get ported to that system. Thousands of games.
right.
Um. Meat Puppet 007 says, Jez, you said you were a Sega kid. Did you ever play Wonder Boy 3 and Dragon's Trap on the Sega Master System? I did not. I was really, really young when I had a Sega Master System. I just played whatever games I was given. Some of the games I played on the Master System, I don't even remember what they were called, but I remember the cheat codes. There was this one game I played. It was kind of like GTA 1, where you had like a top view of a car and the car had guns. I can't remember what it was, but I played that religiously. I loved that game. If anyone knows what that game is, based on my description, you were just a little car driving along and shooting other cars. I love that game. And also, stuff like Shinobi. Played
Shinobi.
that. Yeah, I love that game too. And like on the Mega Drive, man, I was in love with the Mega Drive, man. I love the Mega Drive. Like all the treasure games, like Dynamite Heady. You ever played Dynamite Heady?
I have not played Diamond.
Fantastic game.
Not play that.
That was so good. That was such a weird game. You had like a disembodied head, and you'd headbutt enemies to death. It was just crazy. It was so good. But yeah, Golden Axe, Streets of
I did
Rage.
play Golden Axe. I did play Streets of Rage. Streets of Rage,
Oh
great.
God, so good.
Streets of Rage 1, 2, and 3. Oh, and the music. Oh
So
my god,
good.
just thinking of some of the music in Streets of Rage is just incredible.
Oh, people in chat said the game's called Spy Hunter. Let me look
I
Mass
played. I
System.
remember playing Spy Hunter in the arcade.
Spy Hunter Mass System. Sega.
I don't know if I played it on the gen. I remember being like, who here in chat, does anybody remember being old enough to go to Chuck E. Cheese's and playing like the arcade games there, like me?
Oh shit! I think it was that game, Spy Hunter. Yeah, it looks like it. Altered Beast was great too. We never had Chuck E. Cheese in the UK. That's what Five Nights at Freddy's is based on, right?
I think so. Yeah.
It's
But
like a
we had
creepy robots in there.
we had a Chuck E. Cheese that wasn't too far from our house. Maybe it was a couple miles away. And I remember like
Mm.
going there a few times for birthday parties or whatever. And I remember there being a Spy Hunter arcade machine there. And I remember playing that game. I remember all that I wanted to do was just to play the arcade games at Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh.
I told. I'm sure I've told the stories of like how I used to take quarters from my dad. He would, like I'm the oldest of three siblings, and my dad and my mom, like my dad would coach my brother's basketball team, and my two sisters would have volleyball matches and all these different things. So, sometimes nobody would be here because they would all be out. And about a mile away from my house was a bowling alley that had an arcade. So,
Hmm.
and my dad would take like all of the coins he would get and put them in a gallon milk jug in his closet. So when nobody was home, sometimes I would be like, "All right, well, I have about an hour. I go into the closet, take out, I'll grab a whole bunch of quarters, and I'll take my 10-speed Schwinn bicycle, ride it up to the local bowling alley, which was a mile away, and I would play Mortal Kombat 2, or I would play, whatever arcade games were there at the time. And when the carnival would come to town, I don't know if anybody else had this growing up, like, where when school was over, so when it was like June or July, carnivals would come to town, and they put up all these rides in the empty parking lots of the schools. And around the same time every single year at this one school by our house, it was for that week, it was carnivals, right? You have all the carnival rides and all this sort of stuff, and everybody would go there, and we'd go at least one day when you were younger, but then you were older, you'd go with your friends, and you would buy, the bracelets, and you go on the ride. It was always like the cool, if you were cool, you went with your friends to these things. But it's funny because whenever we would go, I would literally take all these quarters beforehand, and I would go in there with, I don't even know how much. My pockets would be full of quarters. I didn't care about the Ferris wheel. I didn't care about all the different rides or all the different things you could do. I would literally make a beeline for the gym, and in the gym, there would just be rows and rows of arcade games. Alien versus Predator.
In the gym?
Yeah, in the gym. Alien versus Predator, The Simpsons arcade game, like whatever arcade game was like, and I just literally hang out there and play all the time. Put in all the, I would be there all night, and your parents would come. My parents would come and be like, "Time to go." They knew that's where I would be going. I didn't care about the rides. Hell, I didn't even care about looking for my friends around there. I was all about playing all these damn video games at this thing. And I even remember there's one time, 8th grade. So this was our final year at the school, because then it might be a little bit different in the UK, but we go through kindergarten through 8th at the same school. At least for me, it was at the same school. You graduate 8th grade, then you go to high school, which is, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year. You graduate there, and then you go off to college, right? One year we went to this like laser tag. It was like a field trip to this place that had laser tag and pizza. But you know what else it had? It had a whole like arcade. So while, all the cooler kids were going to play laser tag, me and like the nerds, I guess, would spend the whole time just playing video games, playing X-Men arcade game or playing whatever. It was great. I didn't even go and set foot in the laser tag arena because I didn't care. I only cared about the video games. I don't know. Do you have any stories like that?
We never really had like arcade. Well, I don't know if there were arcades where I lived and I was just unaware of them, but I don't know. I think like arcades were just not a thing in my town very much. But I used to rent Mega Drive games from my local video store, Blockbuster Video, and that's pretty much how I play games. I don't know many. I was like, gaming wasn't that popular when I was a kid. I feel like at school, everyone was just playing football all the time, and it was just like, I was the only person I knew who really played a lot of games, and then maybe a couple of my closest friends. And like they'd have Master Systems, and then everyone got Genesis. Everyone got GameCube, not GameCube, Game Boy for Pokemon. I remember everyone in the schoolyard with the Pokemon Game Boys with the link cables out.
Man, I miss the arcade, bro.
Nintendo was such a pioneer when it came to that shit.
I miss the arcades. Cables. We used to, even in high school.
Well, they're so expensive though. Like
they are.
To me, it's like,
well, this was before they were expensive. This was right before they got super expensive because games were still a quarter or 50 cents. They haven't gotten up to the price where games were like $1. And I see people in chat being like, Rand just didn't have any friends. No, I did. Sure, maybe.
He did. Don't you remember Rand's story about when him and his friends like went stealing things?
That was so like maybe earlier in the school I didn't have too many, but by the time 8th grade came around, I had a bunch of friends, and then high school as well. So like, okay, yeah, maybe in 4th grade I didn't have that many. At least I don't remember. I'm sure I did, but it was I had a whole bunch of friends like 7th through 8th to high school, college, but we know what we used to do. That same bowling alley I used to ride my bike up to, that was the place when I was like freshman, sophomore, before any of us got our driver's license, and we weren't legally supposed to smoke yet. We would go up to the bowling alley, sit in the arcade room, play arcade games, and just smoke like we were cool as shit. And I remember thinking that, like, and it's just funny. Here's just like us, a bunch of freshmen in high school, hanging out in an arcade, playing Daytona USA or NBA Jam or whatever the NHL version of that. I remember that one. Just everybody smoking like chimneys, and here would become some 8-year-old kid coming into the arcade because his parents are there bowling or something, and I just couldn't, like, thinking back on it, just imagine that kid coming in there and here's like 5 or 6, 15, 16-year-olds all smoking, hogging all the arcade machines as this kid comes in there with some quarters wanting to play something, Poor kid. But those were the days, though. Those were the days.
Those are the good old days before the constant non-stop drama and conspiracy theories and exhausting takes and FUD and all the rest of it that kind of frustrates gaming these days. But, the best thing about gaming is it always falls back to, ultimately, just hanging out with your friends and having a good time. And luckily, there's ton of games on the horizon, which should let us do exactly that.
Indeed. Let's see here. What do you want to talk about? Oh, we do have some
Let's
couple
clear out some super
super
chats.
chats. We got one here from RDX Son of Fett with the $6.99. The boys YouTube made fun of PlayStation so bad. Lol, $70 games and going to PS Plus a year after release. Oh my god, it's so good. Might be on X too. I haven't watched the new season of The Boys yet. I didn't see their YouTube channel, so I'm not sure what exactly The Boys is making fun of PlayStation about. So,
What, the TV show?
he says The Boys YouTube made fun of PlayStation so bad. I'm assuming he means The Boys, like The Boys TV show, their YouTube channel, maybe? I don't know.
That's a weird thing for them to get involved in, but
Abdel
fair enough.
with $4.99. Rand, I'm in Chicago on vacation. What place that sells deep dish pizza would you recommend? Also, Gears is back, baby. If you really, really want deep dish pizza, you can either go with Lou Malnati's or Giordano's are probably two of the best. Depending, people will always debate about both of those. I don't like deep dish, so I couldn't really tell you which one of those is better than the other. My favorite place, my favorite pizza, which I showed to Cog when he was here, was Palermo's. But, when people talk about deep dish, they talk about Lou Malnati's and Giordano's here in Chicago. There might be some swanky place downtown that maybe has some really good deep dish, but I haven't tried it, nor do I know of it. Code 3 with the $1.99. What are your thoughts on Warhammer 2? I'm hyped. Yeah, Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. I really enjoyed the first. Did you play the first one?
I did not.
You didn't.
I missed it
on
out.
the 360?
Is it back compat?
I don't think it is.
I don't think it is.
I don't think
it is.
Yeah.
I feel like I checked that and it wasn't. Yeah, it looks like a game I'd enjoy because it's basically Gears of War.
It's fun. I
40K.
think that was a game that, if I remember correctly, one of the things
out.
about it was you couldn't. There was no way to. The only way to heal was with your melee attacks or something.
Like Doom. Because
Something
you
like
heal
that.
Doom by doing execution.
Yeah, but it was something about you get swarmed so much. There's no healing items around. I think it was you had to kill these, do stomps or something to get your health back. I don't remember. It's been quite some time, but I do remember it being a really fun campaign. And I don't know anything about the Warhammer universe. You're right. That's
Warhammer universe is awesome.
Extensive, but it was a fun game to play, and it is something that's on my list. Like September 9th, the sequel comes out. Early September's just packed. Like when I look at it, your August 29th is Star Wars Outlaws, which I think looks pretty cool. I'm most likely going to play that game. The early edition comes out on my birthday. So hey, anybody want to get me a birthday present? Give me Ultimate Edition code of Star Wars, I guess. Then there's Age of Mythology Retold, which not for me. I'm not going to play that, but that does come out the 4th. The 5th is Stalker 2, which a lot of people are going to play. I might check it out myself to see how hardcore it really is and if it's something up my alley. September 6th is Astrobot, which one of my most anticipated games for the end of the year is Astrobot. I really enjoyed it on the PlayStation. And then September 9th is Warhammer 2 or Warhammer 40k. So
and I've heard that Veilguard
might be September.
Might be September as well.
And who knows when the Starfield DLC is? I mean, the 1-year anniversary is in September.
That's true.
So there could be a lot of stuff, and I'm going to have to prioritize. I don't know if I'll be able to get through Star Wars Outlaws and Stalker 2 and Astrobot and Warhammer and Starfield DLC and maybe Dragon Age if I play that. There's a lot of games to play in a short period of time. Although it does kind of look like October's kind of empty this year a little bit. I wonder if that's where they're going to slot Towerborn in Jez, because Towerborn, Stoic, they put on their website that they're still aiming for this year.
Yeah. Maybe Dreadwolf skips over to October as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure you want to release a
Whatever
couple
they're
weeks
calling it.
before new Call of Duty, right? Which is coming out at the
Yeah,
end of October.
Yeah. Although I don't know if there'll be a huge amount of crossover there. I don't think Valgard, like Dragon Age, long-suffering Dragon Age fans are sort of sitting there thinking, "Oh God, shall I play Dragon Age or shall I play Call of Duty?"
No, but I mean, there still
But
might be some people who might play both, but who will be like, oh, well, there's not enough time to play through Dragon Age to play Call of Duty or something.
yeah, when does Call of Duty come out? November.
October 25th.
October 20th. October's pretty bad too. Maybe you drop Valgard at the start of October then? I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, that's when I was thinking Towerborn. You already have 2 games from Microsoft releasing in September. I've seen some people say that's a bad decision to have Age of Mythology on the 4th and Our History Untold on the 25th. They're like, how could they release 2 games in the same month? It's like, I'm not sure there's going to be that much overlap between those two, but maybe there is. I was thinking, well, if you're going to get Towerborn out this year, it would have to be in October then, unless you're releasing it in August.
Yeah, true.
You don't want to release it in September. Maybe you could throw it in October. Definitely way before Call of Duty, and you probably don't want to release it after because you still got to worry about Avowed and Microsoft Flight Sim and the other games, plus Indiana Jones, you know?
It's true.
Miguel Ivers with the 2. What is up with the Black Myth? Slimy Sony or Xbox Series SL? All right, well,
Yeah,
I guess
we can
this
talk about that next.
leads into your article today.
Dovetails,
segues, transitions into your article that you posted today on Windows Central. Well, why don't you tell everybody what you did? Because I'm hearing like different things that you set up Microsoft to tell you what you wanted to hear.
Who said that?
I mean, there are people on Twitter elsewhere saying there are people because
Well, I don't know why they're just assuming that so they can
of course
slide in their own narrative.
people will take their own narrative. So
I never prompted Microsoft to talk about that at all. So they flipped in there with that themselves.
So you asked both Game Science, the developers of Black Myth Wukong, and Microsoft, is the Series S to blame for the delay of Black Myth Wukong on Xbox? Is that the question you asked to both?
I mean, well, not both actually. Okay. I sent Black Myth a link to my article today, and I was like, "This is what I'm investigating."
But this was before you were published, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, "Do you want to comment on this? What I'm investigating." And then, but with Microsoft, I was like, "Well, what's the deal? It's Xbox Series S to blame again, or how you because when the whole stuff blew up with Baldur's Gate, remember last year?
Yes.
Was it?
Who could forget last year? Last year, yep.
Yeah. So I was in contact with Microsoft a lot over that thing. So I wanted to get them. I wanted an explanation. Why am I not getting Baldur's Gate at the same time as everyone else? So yeah, I was talking to Microsoft extensively with regards to that as well. And eventually they dropped the parity clause. So I was thinking, like, if there is some kind of Windows Series S thing again, could they drop the parity clause again if that is indeed what the issue is? However, while I was in LA, there was all these rumors swirling around that Black Myth had taken some kind of exclusivity deal, which I sort of joked about, alluding to on last week's show.
Yeah, people weren't happy about that.
Well, people aren't happy about a lot of things.
I know they aren't. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't care. But again, it was just rumors. It was rumors and hearsay, and didn't know for sure what the situation was. So I set out to get some physical evidence of one way or the other. So I asked the lads at Game Science, what's the deal? And then I'd already asked Microsoft, are we being hit with another parity clause issue here? And then Microsoft came back with that statement after it was a long time, over a week. How long have I been back in the UK? was quite.
You
It
got
was a
back
fairly.
on Wednesday, I think, last week, right? Or
Yeah, it was
Wednesday
a
or
fairly.
Thursday.
Yeah, something like that. It was a fairly long amount of time, and I suppose that was just because they were backed up from Summer Game Fest and whatnot. So
So what? So do you want to read Microsoft's response to you?
yeah, and
Okay.
this was unprompted. I never specifically asked for them to comment on the rumor
You just
about.
asked them about like what's going on with
Yeah, I just
why
said
isn't the game coming? Is it a Series S
yeah,
problem essentially?
yeah. It was about Series S, and or just generally speaking, why is there a delay here? And mentioning Baldur's Gate 3 and the whole situation there. So, and this is what Microsoft came back with. We're excited for the launch of Black Myth Wukong on Xbox Series X and S. We're working with Game Science to bring the game to our platforms. We can't comment on the deals made by our partners with other platform holders. Definitely did not prompt them to say that. We remain focused on making Xbox the best platform for gamers, and great games are at the center of that. So, for me, it's kind of like deals made by our partners with other platform holders. There was no insinuation there by me that that was something that was taking place. Although I know Microsoft was aware of the rumor just from talking to people in LA on the ground at the time. And I think like there's other people who were in LA at the time on the ground, will probably uh they'll probably talk about it on their own shows and stuff in the coming days or
Right.
whatever. But yeah, it could honestly be either way in this situation. You could interpret it one way or the other, and maybe that was the whole point of that statement. You could if you were so inclined, you could interpret it to say Black Myth took an exclusivity deal with PlayStation. But if you're so inclined the other direction, you could say, oh, Jez prompted them to say that, even though I'm categorically saying for the record here that I didn't. Or whatever, and do whatever you want, right? So people ultimately it's a statement which leaves things open to interpretation again. And I asked Game Science to offer their take on it, and Game Science could shut it down really easily by just saying there's no exclusivity deal in place. The reasons for the issues is the Series S. The Series S sucks, and this is
Right.
why, and we can't work with it.
We're a new developer. This is our first game. We're having some
Yeah,
issues. We're trying to hit a deadline, and we're just prioritizing on certain platforms, and we'll hit Xbox later, right? Something they could easily
yeah.
say, right?
And we've seen developers do this plenty of times, where it's just like Baldur's Gate being an obvious one. Although you alluded to the idea that Baldur's Gate just didn't want to launch up against Starfield
Hundred
last
percent,
year.
100%. Why would you? If you're Larian, why would you launch Baldur's Gate 3 up against Starfield and Game Pass? Like,
Yeah,
didn't make any
I don't
sense.
know.
Didn't make any sense to me. Why you would do
Yeah,
that?
and Game Science just they haven't responded at all, and maybe they just feel they don't need to respond or whatever. But they could shut it down really easily by just denying that there's an exclusivity deal in place. But in any case, it's drawn the whole idea about the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series X being difficult to work with, mostly the Series S.
Mm-hmm.
Because their statement was that we're not happy with the optimizations,
Yes.
it's not up to our standard, and we're delaying the game to make sure it hits our quality bar. And immediately, the first thing I thought, and I presume the first thing a lot of people thought was Series S
Yep.
is to blame here, like with Baldur's Gate. So that's when I started trying to get down to it, because at the end of the day, my job, at least this is how I see my job, is to advocate for Xbox players and customers. And ultimately, the decisions of Microsoft have led to us getting a game at not the same time as PlayStation again.
Mm-hmm.
And it was sort of like it's another one of them. It's like the whole Capcom thing from earlier, about the MT framework. It's like this just keeps happening to Xbox. But when you zoom out, it's not like indie games haven't skipped other platforms as well. Like my Pal World being an obvious one. There's no Pal World on PlayStation right now because they took a bag from Microsoft to be exclusive for however long. You know, that wasn't them just deciding, oh, we'll go with Xbox because we prefer Xbox. You would have thought if they were deciding to prioritize one platform, they probably would have gone with PlayStation because it's a bigger
Maybe
platform,
even
right?
Switch.
Maybe even Switch, because they're bigger platforms. So I'm sure Nintendo would have something to say
A lot
about
of
that.
Pokemon fans on the Switch. Maybe they'd be like, "Oh, Pal World, huh? Okay."
Yeah, but then Nintendo would have been like, oh boy,
Hmm.
this is a spooky, spooky game.
remember when a lot of people out there were so sure that Nintendo was going to sue Pal World.
Yeah, it
They're
didn't
they're
happen,
like,
did it?
no, they're going to get sued really quickly, and nothing's come out of that, huh?
Nothing.
Interesting.
Yeah, but anyways, yeah, I don't know. So if this, it's not like Microsoft doesn't do these deals as well.
Of
I
course.
just think like it's the question for me is about like, is the Series S to blame again? Is the Series S this much of an issue for developers that it leads to us not getting the Series X versions of games? And it's that whole discussion again, the pros and cons of the Series X. You know, if I'm a Series S player and this is all I can afford, then the trade-offs are obviously worth it. You know, but if I'm a Series X player and I don't care about Series S, you know, I don't. The whole parity clause isn't something that concerns me. You know, just speaking selfishly, playing devil's advocate, right? So I don't know. It's sort of like it's a double-edged sword and a consequence of Microsoft's decision to sort of try and make a platform that can be more affordable while simultaneously being less powerful, you know, as a result. And then expecting developers to sort of treat all the platforms the same way, you know, and the Series S has got the smallest footprint. Um, and again, Game Science is a new dev. They're a small dev, comparatively so. And, you know, prioritizing multiple platforms at the same, like simultaneously is expensive. So, like, I could see an argument for them taking an exclusivity deal to cash flow their operation. I can also see the potentiality that the Series S truly is to blame. But then why did Microsoft start talking about third party deals unprompted, you know? And
Makes
also there's rumors about it. So
so it's sort of okay because we talked about this a little bit on Monday, and I said, would they lie about it? Because I think it came up, and I said, well, I mean, they're saying it's an optimization issue. Why would they lie? And if they did take a exclusivity contract, a short one from PlayStation at the 12th hour, why not just come out and say it? Why not? Like why not just come out and say, oh, we're not. Even though the trailers have all had Xbox on it before, and we've announced it with the release date before, where there's a trailer that said it's coming on August 20th, and here are the platforms it's coming to, and then suddenly it's not. Why not
I don't
just
know.
say? Why not? If the exclusive.
Maybe they just thought this is a better way of doing it. You
Mm,
know, blame the Series S because that narrative's already out there, rather than, you know, paint ourselves with a bad brush and making a false promise, you know. I don't know. I mean, but again, there's no hard evidence either way right now. So just kind of have to take Game Science at their word, which is that there is no exclusivity deal. Although they haven't exactly said explicitly there is no exclusivity
I was
deal.
also sort of wondering, how would Microsoft even know if there was an exclusivity deal between PlayStation and Black Myth Wukong or
I don't
Gate?
know.
You know, like how would they even
Mm,
know the inner workings of either? I don't know. It's just
mm.
it's interesting because you ask, hey, how come this game's not coming as a Series S problem, and then Microsoft gives that response, which sort of implies there's someone else going behind the scenes,
Yep.
and it's like, huh,
And I've that rumor was going around at the Xbox events, you know, in LA. So
interesting.
it's not without precedent. So I don't know. It's you can interpret it however you want, and then hate me for it. Apparently,
Yeah, don't shoot the messenger.
I just wanted to know why Xbox fans are getting a raw deal again. That is my only angle.
Yeah,
Who's to blame? And I mean, at the end of the day, it's Microsoft to blame because even if they did take an exclusivity deal, Microsoft allowed that to happen. And
mm,
if it is an optimization issue, then Microsoft allowed that to happen. So like either way, I'm still kind of blaming Microsoft for the outcome of this. But that's my only angle here is why are Xbox customers who I work for Xbox customers, is that's how I see my job. Why they're getting the short end of the stick again, and how can we stop this from happening? That's my angle.
yeah,
Um,
very interesting. I wonder if they do say anything. Or I wonder if
Mm,
more will be said down the road. I even wonder
we'll
what's
see.
in it. Like, let's say hypothetically, they did take an exclusivity deal. I even sort of wonder what's in it for PlayStation at that point. You know, they're not publishing it like they are with Stellar Blade, which was supposed to come to Xbox, which then Sony took up the publishing for it. So, okay, they're funding it. It's not going to come to Xbox. And throughout this game's whole marketing cycle, it's been, you know, labeled as PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. So even a late exclusivity deal, it's kind of like, what's even in it for Sony? Do they think they need some sort of a game to come out in August that's theirs? I don't know. I'd be interested in the whys and the hows, being like, okay, well, I don't know. It's I'm trying to remember if I've ever seen Microsoft unprompted give a response like that, which implies other dealings going on between a platform holder and the developer, and I'm struggling to come with up any examples. They might have been ones in the past.
I know
Or
Microsoft really hates this idea that the Series S is a big problem.
maybe it's like, well, you threw the Series S under the bus, so you know we're not going to outright come and say it, but we'll imply it.
That's exactly that's what that there was dozens of articles and YouTube videos blaming the
Yes.
Series S in the wake of Black Myth. They could have just said nothing. They could have just said the Xbox Series S version or the Xbox Series X version will be coming at a later date, and they could have said nothing else about it. But they specifically said optimizations, which kind of it dovetails into that narrative that the Series S is a problem. And I know Microsoft's really sensitive about that. After the Baldur's Gate stuff, they were not happy about the way all that was presented. I know they weren't. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. But I just want to get a better deal for Xbox fans at the end of the day, no matter who's to blame, whether it's Xbox or, Microsoft has a lot of money. They can make things happen with that money. And I don't like Microsoft being constantly caught with their pants down. The Marvel versus Capcom thing as well is like, can we just not let this constantly happen? Because it's just us getting screwed over. There should never be a situation where it's like the North Star for Xbox there should not be a situation where it's exclusively not on Xbox. And I know Black Myth Wukong isn't coming to Switch, but that's purely because of the amount of power you get out of a Nintendo Switch. It's not because they don't want it there. I think probably they would want it there, but the Switch is just not powerful enough. But you're not going to have that issue next gen. The Switch 2 probably could run some version of Black Myth Wukong, like a stripped down version or whatever. But when games are exclusively not on Xbox, I want Microsoft to fix that. And I think Xbox fans probably want that too, Like people say, yeah, it's only old games, but when it's a game that you want, you'll feel differently about it.
That is true. That is absolutely true. Anyways, let's take a look at some more of these super chats. We have RDX Son of Fat with the 279. Jez, did you ever ask what happened at the Blade reveal? I would imagine.
I'm not sure who he's referring to there.
Maybe the no logos? Because it didn't have
platform logos.
There was no platform logos. It just was it said Bethesda.
I'm guessing they just don't know what the platforms are yet. I mean, this dovetails into the Matt Booty interview, right? But Microsoft has said case by case basis, and I think part of that is going to be, Disney probably has some say in what platforms Blade goes to, and maybe Microsoft as well is thinking like, we don't want this to be exclusive because maybe it'll push a big third-party game from Ubisoft or something in the same quarter to take a deal with PlayStation rather than compete with Blade, because there's that aspect to this as well. Like Microsoft has so many games coming, they are now competing with Ubisoft and EA and their own partners on their own platform, which kind of potentially pushes people like EA and Ubisoft and Larian with Baldur's Gate 3 potentially wanting to avoid Starfield. That pushes them into the arms of PlayStation potentially. So I think there has to be some kind of balance when it comes to what games go exclusive and what don't. So So I think probably with regards to Blade, they probably are just thinking like, we don't know what platforms this is going to go to yet. Maybe Disney's okay with it, and maybe Microsoft can be like, yeah, we'll buy exclusivity here, and gun for exclusivity because there's nothing else in that time period or time frame. There's a lot of factors to consider when you're considering these platforms. Especially with a game that's complicated like Blade, because there's other stakeholders involved, and there's like potentially competing games from partners coming out around that time, and maybe even hardware launches is a consideration to make as well. So I think it's interesting.
People were also noticed that I think State of Decay 3, Perfect Dark, and Gears didn't have platforms announced for it either.
Yeah.
Maybe because
all the same
didn't have any years, didn't have a year attached to it, so they didn't attach platforms to it.
I don't know.
I'm not sure. He also says,
my
girlfriend ran out when I was playing Still Wakes the Deep. It can be kind of scary. Greg with the 5 says, I want to know if Jez can play Still Wakes the Deep without subtitles. I know these guys are speaking English, but I definitely need the subs. Yeah, that was a trip. These guys speak like, what is it, like a Scottish dialect? And sometimes...
a Scottish accent and dialect.
Yeah, so sometimes it's very difficult to understand what they're saying,
Yeah, I understand Scottish dialect and accent. I mean, you do if you live in the UK, you just end up getting used to it, right? I remember there's a British celebrity that was going to be on America's Got Talent or whatever, and she ended up losing the job because the test audiences couldn't understand her Geordie accent. It's just so fun. But yeah, I can understand it. Most British people will be able to.
Sith Lord, member for 17 months. Xbox is on Cloud 9. Games for years to come. Sony is canceling rewards VR. Their customer service. Looks like Sony will go away in 2026, not Xbox. I mean, I wouldn't say that, but they are... I did see the report that Sony is cutting funding for VR stuff, which, shocker, you could see this coming from a mile away. Yeah.
I think every company right now is looking at, like, they're not, because of interest rates being what they are, people are like, we're not in investment mode right now. We're in prioritization mode. So, like, if their thought process is, we'll invest in something new when interest rates are low and capital's easy to come by or easier to come by, their thought process is, okay, we'll invest in VR because maybe VR is a thing. But evidently, VR is not a thing. VR is very, very much not a thing. As such, they're probably just reprioritizing where they can get their wins, and VR is not a win. It's a big not a win. So
at least not yet.
Not ever. I mean, until that I don't think ever. The problem is wearing a computer on your face. You're kind of hitting up against the laws of physics here. Nobody wants to wear a computer on their face. It's just the reality of the situation. Maybe someone works out like a way of, maybe you just have the glasses with a gyroscope in it, and they're just sunglasses, but then the compute, you put in a device on your pocket, kind of like the X-Reel. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think VR is a thing, and I think Sony's just prioritizing where they can get their wins, and their wins are evidently AAA games on PlayStation.
Yeah, or live service games as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. Sony accessories never really do well, and I know people wanted VR to be a thing because a lot of people like it, but the things like $550 or whatever it is when it came out, and you needed a PS5 for it, it was never going to sell well. Just like the PSVR 1 never was going to sell well, and they've tried to throw it a lifeline by making it work on the PC. But even Sony themselves aren't really funding any VR games and stuff. So it was like, yeah, it was a bet back then that VR was going to be the next big thing, because Microsoft was interested in doing it too. Everybody was like, oh, VR is finally, its time has come. And then they saw consumer interest in it, and they were like, "Oh no!" Microsoft quickly backtracked and been like, "Yeah, you remember when the Scorpio was supposed to support high fidelity VR games? Yeah, I remember that too. Remember when they announced it?
Yeah.
But then there was no consumer interest in it, so they backed up. But Sony, they really thought VR was going to take off. They did the first one, they did the second one. Clearly, it's not going to be a thing, at least not from PlayStation. Maybe Zuckerberg can get it to work down the road. I mean, he's losing enough billions of dollars at Facebook chasing after that dream, right?
Yep.
And I think the MetaQuest 3 does well enough. Correct me if I'm wrong, right, Jez?
No, well, this is the thing, you see. Like, these systems sell,
But
they
nobody
have
buys the
no
games.
engagement.
Yeah.
Nobody buys the games. Nobody buys the microtransactions. So, like, pretty much, like, the MetaQuest is literally a Beat Saber machine. Like, people don't use it for anything else. Like, the game sales are generally low, and then the in-app purchases are even lower. So it's like it just can't compete with the kinds of money that console and PC gaming makes. But if there's anyone who's going to solve it, it's probably Facebook, because Facebook's the only one who's really investing serious money into it right now. Like, even Apple's cut their forecasts of that stupid Apple thing they made, the Vision Pro, which pretty much only YouTubers bought it. They made a bunch of stupid videos about it, and now it's rotting in their drawer. Much like the MetaQuests are. Nobody uses them. They buy them and they put them in the drawer. They don't use them. Oh well.
Yeah, I don't know. I always thought maybe it could take off. It was just some glasses, but it needed to be super cheap, and it needed to be that. Nobody wants. I mean, I've had PSVR 1, but I just having that thing on your face and having the wires dangling off the back. It was like, yeah, this isn't. It's not a fun experience for more than like.
It's an awful experience.
Yeah.
You know,
So-
we've got a MetaQuest 2, and it just never gets used. Never gets used. Covered in dust. You know, Beat Saber's fun. You know, it's a nice little, good for exercise, good cardio. But it's like, you know, you have to sort of say to yourself, I'm not playing this for fun. I'm playing it for exercise. It's not relaxing. Not like VR is just not relaxing. There's no such thing as a relaxing VR game. They're all involved and intensive. You know, I think it has its place, but it's never going to be more than a novelty, I don't think, until they solve some of those issues. And you know, with more serious games, it makes people feel sick. You know, how do you fix that? How do you overcome?
I know,
human
and I
biology?
did get motion sickness. There was one game I played. I really did get motion sickness. I'm like, I'm not gonna get. I think it was one with a roller coaster in it.
Yeah,
and I was just
Minecraft
like,
VR
"Ugh."
made me really motion sick.
Yeah.
I played Minecraft VR quite a bit, and it was like, when you're above ground, it's fine. Like, when you can see the horizon, your brain sort of uses the horizon as a reference for which way is up. But when you're like digging down in a mine, which is like a lot of what Minecraft is, there's no horizon anymore, and it becomes really claustrophobic and sickness inducing.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes, well, this is an awful experience. And when I did that, I just never touched it again, because it's like, why would I play this? I've got a computer. I can play it on literally any other device and have a better time than playing it on this. So, is what it is, man.
Got Donataku with the 5. By the spec, Switch 2 is more powerful than the Steam Deck by a good margin before DLS is in the mix. Also, console optimization will push it further. Yeah, I'm sure the Switch 2 will be a nice piece of machine. I don't expect a lot of big AAA games to skip the platform anymore, like they have with the Switch. So that'll be good for users on the Switch or Nintendo fans in general. RDX on a Fett. He says, Jez, is it Vigilante 8? I'm assuming whatever that game you were talking about. Is that the one?
No, it was not. I think it was Spy Hunter. I think it was. I never played. I did look up Vigilante 8. I've never
Has
seen
no
that game.
Pan says, Jez, was it Action Fighter on the Master System?
Nope.
No.
Never played that one.
Big Afroman 14 with the 5. Just wanted to say great job, boys, on the latest Xbox 2+1. It was your best episode yet. Kudos to the Patreon. Well worth the price, membership, and value. Well, thank you. That means a lot. You know, it's sometimes tough getting guests. Sometimes, because I think even Jaffe was like, you sent him the time when he was like, what time is this? Right? Because me and Jez are separated by, how many hours are we separated by now? 7? Is it 7 or 6?
It's 11 p.m. here.
It is 4 o'clock here. So 7 hours. So the only time to really do this is in the afternoon, and some people just can't. And, we reach out to people and they'll say yes, but then not right away. And scheduling people can be a pain in the ass sometimes, but we try to get, people that we think the audience would want to hear from, or that they say they really want to hear from. And Jaffe was one of them. And it was a fun conversation. Jaffe loves to talk. So
yeah, it was really insightful, because he has like insights into the industry that a lot of YouTubers, journalists, and commentators just don't have. So it's really interesting to hear from him.
We talked a little bit about the Xbox multi-platform approach, and which me and Jez both are kind of like, we don't think it'll be good in the long run. Chasing after short-term monetary games, you're giving up like long-term potential. But Jaffe was all for it. He sees it as essentially when the shopping comparison kicks in and Microsoft has all these games that people will look at and be like, well, I could get it for free here or pay $70 here, that people might decide differently.
You might be right,
which, okay, yeah, I mean, I guess that's a possibility, sure.
And this kind of dovetails into what you've got in the title about changing leadership at Xbox. Because one of the issues with that narrative is that nobody knows what Game Pass is, and we did talk about this with Jaffe on the Xbox 2+1, and this idea that like Game Pass is great value for money, and it when you do have these situations where it's like it's $70 over here, but it's free or $10 a month over here, then that's a great argument to make to a customer. But you have to actually make the argument to a customer.
Yes.
And Xbox hasn't, honestly, Xbox has done a terrible job of that so far. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to be really frank about it. Nobody knows what Game Pass is. I speak to, random people all the time, like, who are gamers, who just aren't aware of it.
Right.
They don't even know it exists. I'm not talking about people watching the podcast, people who read articles and stuff like that. I'm talking about the regular public. Microsoft's done a really poor job of mainstreaming Xbox Game Pass. And I feel like they're hoping Call of Duty can do that on the back of Call of Duty. But I think you need more than that. I think you need a global campaign to tell people and educate customers that this thing exists. And, one of the things that happened this week in the Xbox newsosphere is that Jarrett West, I think that's his name.
Jarrett West,
he's left Xbox as the lead marketing guy for Xbox, and he's moved on to
Roblox.
To Roblox.
Yep.
I had a dream about Roblox last night, Rand.
Did you really? That's an interesting dream to have about Roblox. Okay.
Yeah. I dreamt that Visa and MasterCard did a deal with Roblox to make Robux an official global currency. And that the exchange rate on Robux was so good, everyone started playing Roblox because they could buy their groceries and stuff more cheaply using Robux. It changed the whole world. The whole world economy became Robux coded. That's my dream.
Yeah. So a little bit about Jarrett West is that he spent 8 years at Microsoft on the Xbox marketing side before leaving in 2011 and spending 7 years at Netflix as head of marketing. He then returned to Microsoft in late 2019 and led the marketing for the launch of the Series X and S consoles. And his team was responsible for developing marketing plans for games, hardware, and Xbox Game Pass. And now, because of his departure, Microsoft is shuffling around some of its marketing teams because of it. Now, I will say, I feel like Xbox does... I think I've always said this. I feel like Microsoft, or their marketing team, has done a good job marketing the brand and the consoles. But I always felt they did a poor job marketing individual games and Game Pass in general, right? But what's happening here is that because of this, Microsoft and Phil Spencer has decided to place marketing closer to the businesses they support. So games marketing will now sit inside the game content and studios division that's led by Matt Booty, and Xbox marketing led by Chris Lee will move to the Xbox org and report up to Xbox president Sarah Bond. Now, Jez, Chris Lee says Xbox marketing lead Chris Lee. That's not the same Chris Lee that ran 343 Studios, was it? Before he left, and
I don't know. I mean, I thought it was, but maybe it isn't. That'd be a weird coincidence.
I'm just saying because Chris Lee, I remember Chris Lee in those videos like in 2020, and then he left. I think a little bit after it got delayed, Halo, and I forget who was then.
Yeah, it's a different.
Okay, I would imagine it's a different Chris Lee.
Yeah, so Chris Lee, the current Chris Lee, VP of Xbox Marketing, he came over from Netflix in 2022 to become General Manager, Gaming Ecosystem Marketing, Content Strategy, and now he's Vice President of Xbox Marketing. Since June, so is he replaced Jared Westner? There's a whole new structure, isn't there?
Yeah.
That Phil said in the memo.
Yeah, Bethesda publishing marketing team will move to Game Content Studios under Booty. The first-party games marketing team, including Xbox Game Studios and Mojang, led by Aaron Greenberg, will move to Game Content Studios, reporting to Matt. The Xbox marketing team, led by Chris Lee, will move to Xbox org, reporting to Sarah Bond. The international marketing team will move to Consumer Sales org, reporting to Amy Silverman. Bethesda international marketing team will report to Jill Braff. We'll also move to
Jill
Consumer
Braff.
Sales org. Adam
Jill
will
Braff runs Bethesda.
Yeah.
Worth noting that.
So there's a lot of so now they're moving the marketing underneath. Now Matt Booty's got even more power because now all those the marketing stuff's basically under his purview. Should one man have all that power? Like because he's what's under him? All of Xbox Game Studios, all of Bethesda, and all of Activision, and now all of the marketing for Bethesda as well as the first party stuff. So
It is a lot. It is a lot.
That is definitely a lot.
But it's not like he does everything. He just kind of oversees it. But again, it's also like, Phil oversees the people overseeing everything.
Right, yeah.
And Matt oversees the people who are overseeing the things that they're overseeing. So it's like a hierarchy of people overseeing overseers.
Yes,
basically.
you oversee me in this podcast, or do I oversee you, or who do you report to? Who I report to you because when people talk about Xbox 2, they talk about Jez Corden and Xbox 2, and that other guy, But
well, I hope they talk about you more because everyone hates me apparently.
Well, everybody, you people love you. What are you talking about?
Nope.
So you are right in the sense that if there was a time to make people aware, the normies, the casuals, the world in general, about Game Pass, this is the time. Because you're not going to have, at least unless something else breaks through, you finally have Call of Duty and you're marketing it, and it's one of routinely the best-selling game there is every single year. So if this was the time to let people know what Game Pass is all about, then it's finally come. Because I don't know, I sort of feel like I don't know, the whole Microsoft marketing discussion has always been a weird one because everybody has their own opinions about stuff. When Hellblade was coming out, people were critiquing Microsoft's lack of marketing and things of that nature. It always happens around because marketing and nowadays isn't the same as it was beforehand. Even Jaffe was saying Microsoft should be marketing Call of Duty with Game Pass right now to people.
They should be,
but
they should be, and they're not.
Should they be? But because you can't purchase the Call of Duty right now. So what point is there in marketing something that people can't go and buy?
they can buy Game Pass. Let people know this is the platform now. It's like saying Netflix shouldn't announce season 4 of whatever, you know.
Well, I mean, they do. They announce a trailer when something's done, and they say, "Hey, this is coming in 3 months or whatever it is." But now's the time. Like you have the franchise, you have your roadmap, and all these games are coming. It's now to really kick it in. The Call of Duty marketing should have Game Pass plastered all over it, and if it doesn't, I think that's a big mistake.
I think so too.
Well, I mean, so we'll see how it
I
plays
might
out.
write about it.
I mean, is Jarrett West leaving and all this happening where they're moving this underneath different? Is this finally what they needed to do?
Well, Tom Warren put in, I believe Tom Warren put in his newsletter notepad. Didn't he say something like,
this is looked at as a good thing?
Insiders consider this to be a good thing?
Yes. I want to say that as well, yeah.
I've heard similar.
I mean, maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe sometimes you got to make changes. You know.
I heard that Jarrett's more of a. Someone told me that Jarrett's more of a product guy than a sort of broader sort of strategy guy. I think like his talents might be better suited to something like Roblox rather than something that's so vastly complicated. I do not envy whoever has the job of marketing what Xbox is these days, because it is something. It's the size of Xbox is so unruly and unwieldy, you know. And to be fair to Jarrett West, like that is an insurmountable task to try and explain what the Xbox platform is these days, you know.
Sure is.
And there's not many companies that have such a vast platform that do it very well. And I tell you that the only company I can think of that does it well is probably Apple. Like even Google like has this sort of issue where they can't tie their services and their narrative and their sort of overall message about what the Google platform is. Google does a really bad job of it. Only Apple really does that well. And I have no idea who does Apple's marketing, but they are a god because they've actually convinced people that their products are worth buying when they're all trash. Even you've got an iPhone, for example. So even you were tricked by Apple.
No, I just don't care.
Yeah, but you were tricked by Apple. So basically what Microsoft needs to do is hire Apple's marketing person. And then all of a sudden, Xbox Game Pass will be really cool. Oh man, I've offended all the iPhone users in the chat.
Yeah, but the thing is,
but everyone hates me anyway, so I'm just gonna say what I think from now on.
I don't care. Like when people say anything about iPhone, I don't care. Like I bought this because I had been Android for a while, and I was like, oh, let's see what iPhone's all about. And I bought it. And I don't have any strong feelings towards either one. It's whatever. You know, like the blue and green text bubbles don't matter to me. I just don't care.
Green
about
text
phones.
Bubbles, no.
Yeah, the green. Like, oh my god, one of my buddies like, you don't have an iPhone because you got green text bubbles. You know, like Cognito. I got green text bubbles with Cognito. I was texting him earlier today. He's got Android. Yeah. You know, well,
that's because Cognito is just based.
Colt. I texted him earlier today. Green text bubbles, right?
It's so weird because nobody texts in Europe. Nobody texts. Nobody uses text messages. I remember when I saw these headlines, like, "Oh my god, Apple's going to use RCS." I'm like, "What the hell's RCS?" Apparently, it's some SMS thing. I haven't used SMS for like 15, 20 years. Everyone just uses WhatsApp in Europe.
But Everborn Saga?
The rest of the world.
Everborn Saga?
Texts.
He texted me blue text bubbles.
Oh.
You know?
Oh shit.
So, iPhone.
Blue text bubbles.
But it doesn't matter. I will say the blue does look
dumb.
Look better than the green though, for sure. Absolutely.
It's so dumb. It's just so
I mean, it
dumb.
looks better. I mean, you know you can change your color of your achievements on the Xbox. Mine's the blue color. Let me know in chat, what is the color of your achievement notification on Xbox? Mine is blue because it looks the best. What is yours, Jez?
Mine's red.
Yours is red.
My favorite color is red. Everything I've got is red. My Xbox controller is red. My room is painted red. It's the Horde, man. The Horde is red.
What is the color, chat? What is What colors do you use? Because I think there's. What are some of the? Trying to think of the other. Is there pink? I know there's like a bunch of different colors.
Dude, you can have any color.
I don't think you can have
of
any
colors.
color. They only let you choose between like
No.
5 or 6.
Oh, dude, there's more than that now.
No, there's not.
like, there is.
No
Have
way.
you not looked in the settings menu? There's
Purple,
way more than 5. On
purple,
Xbox,
green,
there's loads.
orange, red, blue, gray. Yeah,
Orange is surprisingly popular.
Nobody's telling me a color that I didn't already know was there. Were you saying
colors are there? There's not that many.
I mean,
colors.
but you could be like, oh, a custom like rainbow color or some shit. I don't know. Like if you could upload your own custom color to the Xbox and have it unlock the achievements that way.
I don't know.
Xbox green. I don't know. I tried them all and I just felt blue was the best. It looked the nicest. The green, I feel like the green's too green or too much of that brighter green that I don't like. Maybe if it was a darker forest. Like when I think of like forest green, like the darker green, if it was that, I'd probably choose that. I don't know. Red is red just, it's just like you're angry. You know, you see red and it's, I don't know. Brown is kind of just, it's poop, right?
Exactly. I mean, that's why I choose red, because I'm angry.
Maybe if it was a black one, I'd choose that. But that's why I felt blue. Orange, I don't know. I was just, when I looked at all of them, it was like, oh, blue's the one that speaks to me the most, I guess.
You can't have, the issue with this stuff, you can't have black or white, because it will interfere with system fonts.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. They'd have to go back and change everything, you know. But I don't know. I had gray for a while.
There is a dark green? I just remember there being like a...
There's more colors than you think.
I'll have to look at it. It's been blue
look it
since the 2013 Xbox One. I haven't changed
Go and look it up. Go and look it up.
Well,
not now. Do it later.
Yeah, I can't look it up right now. So we have Timothy Struble with the 5. With the Xbox 360 shores shutting down, how does this affect Xbox 360 achievements? I still play older 360 games to get achievements. It won't affect achievements. If you own the game, you'll still be able to play the game. You just can't buy the game anymore. Right? I'm pretty sure that's how that works, right, Jez?
Say that again.
So the 360 shore shutting down.
Yes.
Ton of games are on sale, 90% off. I think it's shutting down in a couple weeks. Timothy wants to know, how does this affect the 360 achievements? Because he plays older 360 games to get achievements. And I said, it shouldn't, and it won't.
No, it's only the store that's shutting down. If
Yes.
it's backwards compatible, if it's a backwards compatible game as well.
But let's just say it's
no.
not back compat. If it's like, if you have your 360 and you're playing Bionic Commando, which is a game that's being delisted or being removed, if you own that game and you play it, you still get achievements. It's just,
you should still get achievements,
Yeah.
I would think.
No,
that'd
of
be
course
weird
you
if you
will.
didn't.
Yeah, because even on games that have been delisted as long as you own the game and play it, you'll get achievements. You just can't purchase that game anymore on that store.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't affect you, Timothy. And then we got one here from Don Otaku, Mr. Nintendo himself, once again with the 5. The platforms being shown or not at the Xbox show mean nothing. Doom was shown with only Xbox and PC as well as the other multi-plat games. That is true. It doesn't. I don't think it means anything, anyways. It just gives something people to talk about, I suppose. What else has been going on? Redfall's finally giving out refunds to people that bought the Bite Back edition.
Yeah, I was. That's another thing I was investigating. You know, I had a bunch of people who were like, "Can you figure this out? Can you find out?" So, you know, I was complaining at Microsoft for a while about that, and then lo and behold, refunds start happening. I'm not saying it was because of me. I'm just saying I wanted to be first to the news. You know, but yeah, then I got a bunch of DMs from people who had asked me about it, saying, "Oh, I got a refund through. I was like, "Oh, that's awesome."
Yeah.
So yeah,
$26
you can also,
or something.
Yeah, it's $26.99. You can also, even if you own the physical version, if you go and find the article on Windows Central, there's a link to the specific ticket you need to use to refund the physical version of the buyback edition. Obviously, they'll ask for a receipt and proof of purchase and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you can get a refund. So yeah, $27, you know, which you can put towards, I don't know, half a skin in Diablo.
Half a skin in Diablo.
Well, did you see all this drama about a League of Legends skin that was like
$450, right?
Oh, was it 450?
I think the
like
bundle was
45,
something
man.
ridiculously expensive like that. Yeah.
Man,
These microtransactions ain't so micro no more.
no, I saw some analysis where it was like since they added that $450 skin or whatever it was for League of Legends, players retaliated by banning the use of that hero in matches and stuff like that. Something like that. I don't know. But the whole skins thing's interesting because when players set the price of skins, which is the case in Counter-Strike, people are okay with it, you know. And like it also goes like with clothes, like we accept that there are sneakers that cost $450. Or they're like, you know, Gucci
Do
handbags
we accept that?
$1,000.
Do we?
But well, we don't accept it in gaming though. But like you accept like, oh, that's for rich people. But we haven't accepted it in gaming yet.
Because
but I kind of feel like they are gradually chipping away. They're gradually chipping away at it.
Well, because
I don't know.
It doesn't. Yeah, because you're paying for the brand name in real life, and there's also
what if there was a Supreme? Supreme's a brand, right? Or if there's a Gucci or a Dolce and Gabbana.
Well,
to
be fair, there's also
Master Chief Collection.
There's also there's the brand. There's the items used to create said thing, right? The materials that might be a little bit harder to come by.
Fuck off.
Materials
all cost the same,
right? But then also there's the scarcity effect. You know, there's a reason why there's only so many Lamborghini Bugattis out there, and there's millions and millions of Nissans or whatever, right? Now you could argue artificial scarcity, right? Supply and demand.
Artificial scarcity, man?
But like that's why their pack of gum is 50 cents to $1, but something else is more expensive because of all the different factors. Whereas in gaming, it's just all just digital bits, ones and zeros, and it's just somebody that essentially goes in and creates it. Basically, like anybody
else. It's all just atoms, bro. It's all just atoms.
You know, you could say, okay, licensing. If you're licensing, okay, my Valorant character's got a Gucci bag and a Dolce and Gabbana T-shirt or whatever, so they would have to pay for the licensing for it, which would make it more expensive. But because it's digital, there's no artificial scarcity, which there is in real life, whether it's actual scarcity or artificial scarcity. Right?
It's all artificial scarcity when it's clothes, man.
When it's clothes, sure, but I'm just saying, we're just using it as an example. And people just know, it's like that $20 thing that you're charging me, a blue, green, purple, yellow, probably took somebody 2 hours to make. And it didn't make it, and it didn't make it, it's like you just told the computer to change it from blue to yellow to green to purple. Right, whereas like,
what if it's a 3D skin and it took a long time to make?
Well,
some of the skins in Overwatch look quite complicated.
Plus, 3D. The game itself, in some instances, like Diablo 4, some of these skins or whatever cost more than the game you're playing it on that you purchased.
I just logged into Diablo to have a quick look at the store since we're talking about it. So. Let's see how expensive some of these Diablo skins are. There's one thing that really pisses me off about Diablo skins is that the armor you buy from the store looks better than the armor you get for playing the game. That's an issue for me.
Because the cool stuff is locked behind paywalls?
Yeah, because it's like there's not many cosmetics you can get from playing the game that look cool and then prove to other players, oh, I'm a badass because I got this really hard to get cosmetic. All the best looking cosmetics come from the store, and like, okay, so there's this Hell's Champion equipment. That looks pretty badass. How much is it? 2,800 platinum. How much is 2,800 platinum? It's 20. It's $23. $23 for that much platinum. That skin is $23. It looks badass, but and then there's another one. The 2,800 platinum, and again $23. Yeah, so you can refund your buy back edition and then buy one skin in Diablo. Mm-hmm. It's kind of crazy though when you think about how Elden Ring's DLC.
Yes, $50
cost $50.
Yes,
and it gives you dozens and
30
dozens
to
of
40
hours
to
of
50 to 60 hours depending, right? A whole new world to explore, new bosses to fight, new things to discover.
That's the same price as 2 skins in Diablo.
I know. Or a couple skins in Fortnite.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, the pricing scheme on some of this stuff, right? Here's Elden Ring with this huge expansion that is basically, people are debating whether or not it should be up for Game of the Year.
Because it's so big.
Because it's so big, and it's basically bigger than most games that come out, period. Right? And it's like, well, should this expansion be considered for Game of the Year at the Keeleys? I don't know the rules for it, but I was assuming it probably can't be. It might win Best Ongoing Game. Because I think Best Ongoing Game last year, didn't that go to Cyberpunk? Phantom Liberty?
Yeah.
I want to say it did.
Yeah, I want to say it did, yeah.
So I could see Elden Ring, it would be kind of hilarious if Elden Ring won Best Ongoing Game. Because, I don't know, is it an ongoing game? I know they've done updates and stuff.
They've done a ton of updates to that game.
If Shadow of the Erdtree is nominated under that category, and it's the only thing it can be nominated under, or maybe it'll be nominated under Best RPG. Maybe because I think Phantom Liberty was nominated under a couple other things as well. So whatever it gets nominated under, it's going to win. It's just, can an expansion be considered Game of the Year? And that's the debate people are having. And
for what it's worth, I think yes, personally. But
I think
I'm in the majority.
I would say yes too, but as like a yes but maybe. Where if you wanted to, then I think you need to change the name Game of the Year to something that could also mean expansion, like Game/Expansion of the Year or something. Because
Experience of the Year.
Because Elden Ring already won. It run in 2022. Like, it already won Game of the Year. So this, I don't know. I'm saying,
the awards are all fucking
but
dumb
maybe,
anyway.
But that's how people are. But you're right in the sense that here's this game that hundreds of people made, and it's blowing up Metacritic, and you can play it for another 50, 60 hours. It's $50, or you can go buy a couple skins in a game for the same price. Options. That's why I love all the the loot box stuff that every game had when they were testing out what they wanted to do for their microtransactions.
The
all
loot boxes
transitioned to buy the skin that you want, but the prices were high because I
actually prefer loot boxes.
I know you do, and we've talked about this in the show, but considering I don't care about any of the skins that my characters have, it makes me feel better because knowing that I'll never spend a dime in the game, right? Do you
not try and make your characters look good when you're playing games though? What does your character look like in Elden Ring?
I tried to make them look cool. It's not like I just started out. It depends. Like in Mass Effect, when I started Mass Effect 1, I literally used the default character because I thought it looked the best. Right? I felt it went with the voice. It was just like, no, this one I tried creating it, and I was like, you know what? The default character just looks the best. That's the one I went with. So when I do create a character, but I create one that I think looks cool. I don't try to create one that looks like me, because quite frankly, I don't want to play as me in the game. I try to look at like, hey,
I always try and make me when I play.
I know, like Colt always tries to make himself in the game, and I'm just like, I don't want to play myself in the game, so I try to create something that looks cool. Maybe it's got some badass scars or something. And a lot of times, you know, these character creators, they offer like a randomizer, and I'll just like keep on pressing randomize until I get a look that I like.
God.
You know,
I feel like I'm lying if I don't play as me.
you can play, but the whole thing is to play whoever you want. But the thing is, I just remember we would be playing Warzone. Warzone's free to play. And all my friends, they would, you know, buy some skins or some gun skins or whatever, and they'd use them, or, you know, Rainbow Six, they'd buy some of the stuff, and here I am with the default weapon skins, they're like, how could you do that? I'm like, dude, I don't care if my gun is black, red, purple, pink, or got these little attachments to it. It's not going to make the gun any better. Now, if you were to say this thing that you bought would make the gun better, like kill faster, maybe I would consider it. But it's just a visual thing, and I'm a cheapskate.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
I don't like to spend money unless I have to spend money. And so when I look at these skins, I'm just like, I don't need that skin. I don't, you know, like... I'm trying to think if they ever... number one, I don't play in these games, so I wouldn't load it up, but I know someone like Special Nick, anytime there's like a skin, he's like, loading up Fortnite, buy the latest skin, or however he says it in his Australian accent. And he's probably spent like $2,000 on skins in Fortnite. He's like, I got this skin, and 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 this skin, I got all these skins. And I would never buy those. I don't know. It's just... I always find
I buy skins. I do buy skins.
I just find it weird. As someone who doesn't care at all, period, about the cosmetic stuff, I always find it weird when people always complain about the prices of them. Because I can sit back here smiling, know that I would never pay for any of this. And you guys had created your own problem by buying them in the first place.
Yeah, I buy skins. I've ruined the industry.
You are part of the problem. You know, you talk about microtransactions and how they are in the industry, and you're like, well, I don't buy them. But then you got one of my buddies out there who spent $5,000 on Neverwinter Nights, or $2,000 in Genshin Impact. Right? You always hear about that. Yeah, I got friends who spent like $2,000 on Genshin Impact. Free game. And I'm sure all the people who play it for free are certainly happy with it. But guess what? You're being supported by other people out there that don't have the time or have... you know, all the money in the world, but no time. So they'll just spend to get what they want.
The thing is, it's not even a pay-to-win game.
I know.
It's not like when you spend money, you don't...
They need the waifus, Jez. They need the waifus, the rolls,
you just
or whatever you get in Genshin Impact. But it's like, yeah, so how much did you spend? Like, oh, I don't want to talk about it, man. I'm like, how much did you spend? I don't want to talk about it. Like, okay.
Like, the game scales exactly based on your power. So, like, no matter how powerful you get in Genshin, you're still, you know, the enemies scale up to your level. So it's really, you're just rolling for the waifus, I guess.
You are just rolling. And they got to have all of them, bro. My buddy's got to have them all. You know? But, I mean, he's also someone that buys every collector's item that comes out. Like, he just got the Elden Ring one. So he's got the Elden Ring statue. He's got all the statues everywhere in his room from all the big collector's editions.
I've actually got the Elden Ring collector's edition. I've never opened it though.
I got a book buying problem. I buy lots of books. I read lots of books. I almost probably start a library with how much stuff I had. And I also buy special edition books. Like I got all the Brandon Sanderson books in leatherbound, and each one of the books are $100. I almost got, I think I have $1,300 in just leather-bound books by Brandon Sanderson. $1,300.
Nerd.
And the thing is, I probably won't even read them because I have the hardcover editions of those, and I don't want to ruin the leather-bound editions. So yeah, I mean, I guess you can make fun of some of the stuff that I like, and I'm making fun of other stuff.
The thing is, at the end of the day, everyone's got something that they waste money on because it makes them feel happy. Yeah. And it's okay.
Looking at my books make me feel happy. That's for sure. let's talk about this Matt Booty interview because we did get a couple things out of it.
Sure.
I don't know if you saw this, but he did say Diablo 4 was like the biggest launch in Game Pass ever or something. Do you see that?
Yeah, I did see that. You know, it's an expensive game. You know, it's $70, and also I think it's probably a genre that a lot of people aren't sure if it's for them.
Right.
Because not, like, you know, isometric. It's not exactly, you know, the most popular game genre in the universe. You know, and it's a very classic feeling. So probably a lot of people just like, I'm not sure that's for me, but hey, if it's in Game Pass, I'm definitely going to try it.
Well,
And the game is addictive as hell. It is addictive as hell.
so I'm just curious if did that dethrone Starfield, because we know when Starfield came out, it was the biggest Game Pass launch, and they sold more Game Pass subscriptions in like the first day than ever before. Did Diablo come out and dethrone Starfield?
Of course it did.
You
Of
think?
course it did, because
Yeah.
you influence your friends to play it. Like,
So
hey,
because
come play
Diablo's
this in Game
4-player
Pass.
co-op, okay.
Yeah.
And
So,
even
like,
though,
you
so
can
even
influence your
though,
friends to play, and
even though it came out basically what, 9 months after the game released, or 8 months or
it
whatever it is.
also dovetailed nicely into the new season launched a little while after it, and the new season is, you know, decent. It's not a lot of people love this season. I'm still sort of like, it still needs work. Diablo still needs work, but it's in a much better place than it was. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that it dethroned Starfield because it's multiplayer.
Yeah, that is true.
I wonder what it was before Starfield.
That's a good question. I think we knew the biggest third-party one before Pal World was Hi-Fi, or not Hi-Fi, High on Life, and then it was Pal
Oh
World.
yeah. So High in Life, I suppose, had the whole Rick and Morty fandom going for it, right?
Yeah, but I mean, Pal World came and basically destroyed all that. And I don't know, did
Yeah.
they say Pal World was like the biggest launch ever in Game Pass? I mean, maybe it was because they had a lot, but then Starfield, I
Yeah,
don't know.
that one's super viral. Pokemon with guns,
Yeah,
easy narrative.
but where's Pal World now though? In June, can you look it up
we're
right
waiting
now?
for a new patch for
Yeah,
it.
but I mean, what's it at right now? If you were to go to Steam, what's the player count at?
Let's have a look.
Because remember when it hit like 2 million on Steam and it was the talk of the town, and they only announced Steam numbers and then eventually announced the Xbox numbers, and people were like, "Holy shit!" And
There's
it was,
13,000 people in game right now.
what's the peak lately? 24-hour peak.
24-hour peak, yeah, 26,000. So not awful.
So it's fallen quite a bit. I'm surprised there aren't articles
90%.
like Pal World has lost 99% of its audience.
Yeah, but there was a hard stop on the content.
Sure.
You got so far, and it was like, okay, there's nothing left to build, there's nothing left to kill, there's nothing left to collect. There's a really hard stop in Power World, or indeed any sort of Pokemon-ish kind of game. Like with Pokemon Sword and Shield, maxed out my decks, and then I did maybe a couple of seasons of PvP, and I was like, okay, I'm done with this now. I never played it again. Never will play it again. There's literally no reason to.
Let me ask you this then: do you think when new content comes, do you think those people will return, or?
I honestly don't know. I mean, they announced new content in the Xbox Showcase. Looked pretty good, but
Did they?
you know, it's
I thought they announced
They
it.
did.
I thought they announced it at the Jeff Keighley show.
well, you know, the showcase season, I should have said. But that whole week is just a complete blur to me. But in any case, new content was announced. So I mean, I suppose the issue with them is like, it's going to be the speed of getting content out faster. Because this is one of the issues World of Warcraft had, which it was like they were saying that they've solved it now, was since Makibara, that the content wasn't getting out fast enough. So like people got bored of WoW, they'd clear the content in like a couple of months or a month maybe, and they'd go and play something else because the new content would take 6 months to get out. But for this expansion, they pretty much had new content out every 3, 4, 5 months, which is really, really good. So I think Palworld needs to scale up. Like if the new content comes out and people clear it in like a few weeks, and then there's nothing left to do, people will start getting the impression that like there just isn't going to be content fast enough to keep them satisfied, I guess. Especially when you've got games like Fortnite pumping out content like no man's business. I don't know.
Man.
We're going to talk about Matt Booty, though, right?
Yeah, we are talking about Matt Booty because that was one of the things from the interview. Another thing was the Sea of Thieves success. He talked about that they're really pleased with Sea of Thieves on PlayStation 5. He says, we've been really pleased with what we've seen on Sea of Thieves. In terms of some things I can share that were encouraging to us is that when we launched Sea of Thieves on PlayStation 5, we saw an uptick in engagement on Xbox and PC. There's this thing where you...
They told me that at the event as well.
Yeah. There's this thing where you've got more people coming into the franchise, which causes more excitement, which actually grows the franchise overall, which, if you really want to be direct about it from a business point of view, allows us to continue to reinvest in the franchise and to grow it. So, yeah. He says it's about expanding that community. It's one of the things that's core to Xbox promise about letting people play where they want to play, with the people they want to play with, on the devices they play with. And it's encouraging that we didn't see a sort of vertically insulated community there. The work the team had put into being best in the class in terms of cross-platform play really paid off because we saw people engaging outside of their own device ecosystem, which was great. The other thing is it brought in new players into Sea of Thieves, one of the goals that all of our franchises have, and one that we all have across the industry right now is how do we grow? And it was really great to see that it was bringing in new players that never played Sea of Thieves before. I think we consider that a success. Yeah, so it's doing really well. Interesting that by releasing on PlayStation, more people played it on PC and Xbox.
I suppose it's because, like, maybe people who, playing with their friends. Like, one of the things that I noticed over the show, during the showcase, because, like, Monster Hunter Wilds announced that they have full crossplay, which is a first for the series, right?
Mm-hmm.
I immediately got a message from a friend who plays on PS5. I was like, oh, look, we can finally play Monster Hunter together, So there's that aspect of crossplay just leads to more connections, I suppose. Sea of Thieves are no different. Like, I could play Sea of Thieves with a friend now. Does Elden Ring have crossplay? It doesn't, does it? I don't think.
Yeah. He also talked about... What?
Oh. Does Elden Ring have crossplay? I don't think it does. Or maybe it does. I don't know.
I don't know if it has crossplay. I'm not sure. Maybe it does? Actually, I don't know. Now I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I don't think it does. But I'm sure someone in chat will tell us if it actually does have crossplay. He also talked about closing of Tango Gameworks.
What did he say there?
He said, I won't get into the really nitty-gritty details of what went into the decision, mostly out of respect for people there, just because there was a lot of work that went into delivering Hi-Fi Rush, which was a great game and did well for us. I think the thing to be considered is that for us, it's as much a forward-looking situation as much as it is looking back at one certain game. There are a lot of things that go into assess for a game. What leadership do you have? What creative leadership do you have? Is the team the same team that shipped something successful previously? We have to look at all those things together and ask ourselves, are we set up for success going forward? And while there may have been factors or situations that previously led to success, they may not all still be in place as you look at what you're doing going forward. Kind of,
do you think that
imply that Mikami leaving might have had him leaving may have one of the reasons they decided to close it.
There was this whole rumor that when Shinji Mikami left, some of the senior developers left with him, and that sort of created an issue where they'd have to reinvest in the studio to rehire and build back up. Now, like, without being a fly in the wall, I don't know for sure, but it does sound like there's a lot more to it. And also, I just kind of feel like we were talking about earlier with the VR situation with PlayStation. I think a lot of companies right now are like, rather than having an investment mindset, they're having a like, where can we double down mindset instead on things that we know are going to be a win. And I think Tango might have just been at least partially a victim of that. It just sucks.
Yeah. But he also kind of suggested that closing Tango GameWorks entirely was not the only option considered, because he started talking about what they've done previously with some of their studios. He says, with many of our studios, we try to look at options. For example, we recently had Toys for Bob, a studio that was previously working on Call of Duty titles, go back out and become a new independent studio. And we've announced that we've got a publishing deal with them, and we'll share more about that when it's important. I think back to a studio called Twisted Pixel in Texas that we acquired. Then for a change in goals, it wasn't a perfect match anymore. That studio today is still thriving, and we wanted to set them up for success. So we absolutely look at what the possible business options are to keep a studio open or perhaps have it change hands. And it's just one of the things that we look at across the board. Sometimes these things come together and sometimes they don't. Now, I think when the announcement that they closed these studios down, me and you went on the next show and talked about why Tango didn't go independent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of wonder, at least here, the way Matt's kind of answering this question, that maybe it was an option that was considered but didn't come to fruition, because you know, Toys for Bob went independent. He's mentioned Twisted Pixel, and so I wonder if they tried some other things to do with Tango, whether it was setting them up to be independent or maybe selling them to someone else that just didn't happen and fell through, and then the only recourse was to shut them down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think I've got COVID and I'm dying.
Yeah, sounds like it.
But it's kind of weird because like people like, why didn't they just make them independent and stuff like that? And it's like the Toys for Bob situation is different because Toys for Bob has an existing back catalog of games that they can use to sort of, kind of cash flow their operation, and also like they've got a bunch of people in place who've been there for a million years, like the CEO and stuff, who know how to run and grow that business. And it's kind of like, I suppose with these discussions, did these discussions go in place, and would Tango have been set up for success, like to use Matt's language, if they had gone independent? Was there even any appetite for that from the people who are still there? We don't know, So it's just a shit situation, and it's just a shame that it worked out like this. I think if playtime hours weren't going down overall in the whole industry, I think the situation would have been different. But
Well, but then there's the big talking point about exclusivity. Because Phil Spencer went on IGN talking to Ryan, said, yeah, more games of ours will go to other platforms. And we all had, we all remember the February business update podcast. We're like, just 4 games, just 4 for now. This is a test. And then we were all like, yeah, there's going to be more than 4, of course. I don't know who believes it's just 4. So now there's more. What they are, there are rumors out there about what they could be. But this is what Matt Booty said on this podcast about exclusives. He says that we will continue to make those decisions individually on a case-by-case basis. We're absolutely committed to having launch exclusives on Xbox. It's part of our core promise, and we want to continue to bring our games to more players on more devices going forward. We certainly have got a lot of experience with that, with things that have just historically been multi-platform for so long. So here's what I think is going to happen. Right?
What do you think is going to happen?
I think ABK and Bethesda are fully multi-platform day one publishers, studios, basically from next year and beyond. So any game that Bethesda makes, any game that ABK makes, fully multi-platform day one.
Right.
I think Xbox Game Studios and some of the games that they're publishing from like Xbox partner, global publishing, like Contrabands, Towerborns, those sort of deals that they have. I think those would be the more case-by-case basis. I think some of them will go maybe a year or 2 later. Some of them maybe will never go. and some of them maybe might go day one, but I'd be more leaning towards some of them just going essentially 6 months, 1 year, 2 years later. But I feel pretty strongly about Bethesda and ABK being like, all right, they're fully multi-plat, baby. So obviously we know Doom is day one. The new IP from ZeniMax Online is going to be everywhere. I feel like Blade is going to be everywhere day one. And whatever new they announce, I think will just be day one from the beginning. Same thing with ABK. And you'll get your launch exclusives or exclusives from Xbox Game Studios and whatever deals they sign with other developers in the publishing program. And like Matt said, it'd be case by case. Some won't go and some will go, and you'll be left here to determine which is which and what's up and what's down and what's left and what's right. And people will be like, oh, that game looks cool, like Fable. Oh, Fable looks amazing. Is it ever going to come to PlayStation? And those questions will dog all the games from Xbox until the cows come home, and nobody will know until somebody says anything. And it's just going to be a constant question hanging over Xbox from now until the end of time. And I know people are like, why don't they just come out and give us a definitive statement? But it's like, why don't they just come out and say Halo's forever exclusive or Gears? And as Phil already answered that before when he said he can't not say things won't be exclusive, right? Or that they won't go. So I think this is more of a way where there's like, we're not going to give a definitive way because things change. I mean, look how things changed from when Phil said, hey, I want you to know, Xbox fans, that we did this deal for you for more exclusives. And these games are going to live on platforms where Game Pass exists. That take age like sour milk because things change 2 years later. And I think they want to insulate themselves a little bit on what the future holds. Because you were told that if their monthly active users go down or their console usage starts to deteriorate because of said decisions, then they'll pull back on the multi-platform approach, yeah?
Yeah. If they end up with data that it's genuinely hurting Xbox, I was told that they would pull back.
Yeah, so if that's something that is a concern, then you're not going to want to come out and make a definitive statement about your plans either way, because you may have to aggressively change your plans in the future, and then you're going to be left with being like, well, you said this was going to happen, and now this isn't happening. So yeah. It's better to, at least in their eyes, say, oh, it's all just case by case. But I don't know. How do you feel about Bethesda, my Bethesda and ABK thing, where it's just they're just day one and you don't need to really even worry about it? That's just what it is.
I disagree.
Okay, you disagree. Okay, fair enough.
I think it genuinely is case by case
for everything. So you think there's a possibility things could be different for each individual game, huh?
Yeah, I think it depends on what the developers want to do.
Okay.
I think Microsoft's giving them freedom to be. I think Microsoft's giving developers freedom to be like, we'll focus on one platform initially and then do a port later, like Starfield. You know, I think like even with Bethesda, maybe less so ABK, because I think ABK already has that pipeline in place for multi-platform games. So like, yeah, I think with regards to Activision, then they'll stay multi-plat because they always have been.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Bethesda's a little bit different because, as we've seen, Starfield is pretty much the product of a studio focusing on one platform. You know, I'm not saying they don't have a pipeline to do ports at Bethesda, but maybe it's just not a huge priority for them. I'm sure if Todd was like, we're happy to be an exclusive platform, because Todd's always like talked about, even back in the day, like even when they were talking about exclusivity Starfield before, Todd was always talking about how originally Morrowind was Xbox exclusive.
Right.
Like, Todd actually, he just seems to like the Xbox platform. You know, Todd does. So I'm sure if Todd was like, we just want to focus on Xbox, I'm sure Xbox wouldn't say, no, you've got to do ports, you know. But I do think like a lot of games, like id Software, clearly they do multiplats already. So, but Bethesda makes these like horribly complicated games that sound like a nightmare. to you know accomplish. You know.
Right. So
Like we
something
only
like
saw them get 60 FPS optimizations after like a year.
something like Elder Scrolls 6. Todd Howard led game. Do you think that could be an exclusive when, even though now it kind of seems like it might be full multiplayer, you think like, oh, well, maybe they don't want it to be. Because
I think like I'm not going to sit here and say that I think Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be exclusive because you know how much insane amount of money
sure, it'd
that
be a lot.
game would make if it's on PlayStation. So like it could just be like this, Skyrim was huge on PlayStation, so we need this to be on PlayStation. I mean, from a pure money perspective, that makes sense, right? But I also wouldn't be completely shocked if it was exclusive to Xbox.
Okay.
I would not be completely shocked.
All right, interesting answers. I did not expect you to. I thought you'd be more in line with me, but I guess that's all right. We have a super chat here from Michael who says, "How many can't do the Series S are NVIDIA games?" I'm not sure what that really means.
That again.
How many can't do the S are NVIDIA games?
NVIDIA doesn't make games.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it means,
I don't know what that means.
NVIDIA GeForce, or I'm not really sure what that means. Meat Puppet says, Take-Two Interactive. He says, take me to Interactive Park nearby. You guys think that's a good thing or bad thing? And he says, sorry for the typo. I meant Take-Two Interactive. Take me to Take-Two Interactive. Is something happening with Take-Two Interactive right now?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean, Meat Puppet. If you let us know in chat. Oh, he says, sorry for the typo, voice typo. Do you guys think that Take-Two Interactive buying Gearbox is good? Oh, because it finally went through. Embracer sold. I mean, it sort of felt like if Gearbox was going to sell to anybody to begin with, it was going to be Take-Two because they have the publishing rights to Borderlands. So, yeah. I mean, clearly it wasn't working out at Embracer. So you would hope that it's better.
Yeah, Gearbox at Take-Two surely better than Embracer.
Yeah.
Embracer's just a terrible company.
Yes.
Led by people who don't know anything about business. So, yeah, I think I would like to believe that Gearbox is in a better place, but who knows? Time will tell, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's probably where they should have been with originally, but
I used to think they were. Well, I actually thought, that I was surprised when I learned they weren't back in the day. I mean,
yeah. Aeronation with the $4.99. Hey guys, long time listener. When do you guys think we will get the back compat updates? Love the show. Yeah, that is interesting because it was something I thought they would make an announcement at. I legit thought they were going to say it at the showcase because a lot of eyes were going to be on them for the Call of Duty thing. I thought maybe you'd get more. And now, here's our plan for Game Pass and the ABK catalog, and here's what you can expect. But they didn't say anything. And now I'm left wondering, okay, what is the plan? What is taking so long, right? The deal went through in October. It's basically July, so we're already 9 months into this. And the only game that's come to Game Pass is Diablo 4. And when you look at all the other games that could come, there's 360 back and pack games. There's Crash and Spyro and, obviously the Call of Duty back catalog. And I sort of wonder if there's a part of me that wonders, Jez, if they don't want to put the Call of Duties in Game Pass right now because they feel it would take away from the new launch of the brand new Call of Duty game that's coming this fall. So like if you say next month you drop the Black Ops games, or say the month after you drop the Modern Warfare games and stuff, is that too many Call of Duty games on Game Pass that would affect the uptick of the brand new one that's going to hit? Or is this we're still working on PC ports potentially, and they're just not done yet, because we have seen a Spyro port, we've seen like the achievements leak for that, and we've seen a Crash port, I think, too. So we know they're making some PC ports. So their announcement's got to come at some point. I'm just not sure when, and I'm not sure what the concern is or the reasons are. I mean, because the games are all on Xbox, so it's like, I doubt Xbox is the holdup. So it would either have to be PC, or it would have to be a strategic thing for not doing it. And I'm curious to find out or understand what that would be, you know?
Yeah, I honestly don't know. It's one of the things I'm trying to investigate right now. It's something I'm trying to learn more about, like why we haven't got like something more definitive about any of this stuff. But I haven't come through with that yet. You know, I've come through on some other stuff, but we're still working on this one. One thing I do know about Game Pass is that it's heavily curated. It's like really, really heavily curated, and like they think about like how releasing things in Game Pass could impact their own games, but also their partners' games and stuff like that. So, it could just be a case of like we need to find a good spot to drop this in, and we don't have one right now. But I'm trying to find out definitively for sure.
Because one of the things people were really hoping with the ABK deal closing through was their catalog being in Game Pass. And here we are, and it's just been one. And so people are rightfully being like, what the hell is going on? What's taking so long? And we don't know any of the answers because Microsoft ain't talking. And you figured a good time to say something would have been at the June showcase or behind the scenes interviews that, you know, you could have done. I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. We'll just have to wait and see. We still have Gamescom coming up. Maybe they could make some announcements there, because that's the other thing we want to talk about was apparently this is going to be Xbox's biggest Gamescom ever, Jez. Are you going this year? Are you going to make the trip to... Well, you don't have to make the trip anywhere. It's there. It's in your backyard. I mean, it's literally down the street from your house, right?
Yeah, sure. I don't think that I am going to Gamescom this year because I'm going to be in the UK. But hopefully gonna send some team members there. But yeah, it sounds like one thing I've heard about Microsoft and Gamescom is that they've actually it's actually something they budget heavily for now, and it's like they've got a Gamescom team, whereas before it was just sort of like Gamescom was more of sort of like a spillover from E3.
Right.
I know Gamescom, they think about Gamescom a lot more strategically now, and
they need to think about
a lot more.
They need to think about Europe more strategically, because Europe does not care about Xbox.
No, it doesn't. But there's a lot of games that Microsoft owns that Europe does care about. I think Microsoft's kind of. I think console in Europe is a foregone conclusion for Xbox. I don't think there's any fixing that. Sad to say. I mean, unless they get Apple's marketing team on board, I don't think there's any fixing that. Like maybe you claw some market share back with the handheld or something like that. But I think increasingly so, Europe is just a PC gaming place. But Microsoft has a lot of franchises that are PC centric. So like Diablo and World of Warcraft are going to be there at the show.
Well, right, yes. So we have a list of games here that they confirmed: Age of Mythology Retold, Avowed, Aura History Untold, Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred, Diablo Immortal, The Elder Scrolls Online, Fallout 76, Towerborn, and World of Warcraft: The War Within.
Yeah.
So
of course, Diablo is really big in Europe, but also Age of Empires in general, the franchise is really big in Europe. And Microsoft actually announced the Age of Empires sort of revival effort in Europe at Gamescom. And they actually had like this whole Age of Empires set up there. It was awesome. They had like a town hall, an Age of Empires 1 town hall there. It was really cool. A long time ago. So there's all that stuff. And the Blizzard franchises, of course. But I'm more interested in the extra bit where they were like, oh, and some more to talk about later.
Yeah.
So like, what could those be?
Well, they say it's their biggest booth ever, right? I don't know. I'm curious because I keep on hearing like this one's going to be a big thing, but I don't know if they have a actual show or stream.
Usually, what happens at Gamescom is there's like this opening live thing which Jeff Keighley hosts,
Yes,
or he has in the past. I wonder if he's gonna carry on doing that. I hope so. But one thing I do wonder is like, would Microsoft actually announce
something.
something new at a
Yeah,
Gamescom? I mean, they've done that in the past, but not often. They've done that, and I feel like Microsoft has like so many studios and teams. Like, this would be an opportunity potentially to show off like a new gameplay trailer or for a game that we've, is still on the back burner. Maybe something that's more Europe centric, more PC centric. I don't know. Because like I say, usually Gamescom, when it comes to announcements, usually Gamescom is just sort of like E3 2, and it's just sort of like like a replay of E3, or it's like some extra details. Like for example, Capcom announced that Monster Hunter Wilds will be playable at Gamescom for the first time, whereas like previously at Summer Game Fest, and it was only a video. Like we saw a video of Monster Hunter Wilds in action. The developers were playing it. Amazing, by the way. It was my game in the game of the show. I think for everything that I saw at Summer Game Fest, Monster Hunter Wilds looks absolutely fantastic. Um, yeah, I don't know what they could announce. I don't know. Could we see? I don't know. I suppose like maybe
Tower.
they
I
could do
mean,
something Fable-y because
mm,
the whole European angle. Because like the Xbox UK leads the effort there, and Xbox UK handles all the UK studios. Like Lionhead,
right.
not Lionhead,
Well, you would have to
Playground.
show something different than what you
Lionhead.
just said. I mean, like there was
Yeah,
thoughts of like,
exactly.
hey, all right, maybe showing off Contraband, like a new trailer or something. But I don't know if they would do something if there's not like some stream or some show or like a
Mm,
trailer for Outer Worlds 2 or I don't know. But I mean, they're calling it their biggest booth ever. It's a big Gamescom, and they do have a lot of stuff. But I don't know what that really means to people who aren't going to Germany, which is a lot of people. Does that mean there's going to be new things or just information on existing stuff? So
guess we'll
we
see.
don't. It's about 2 months away. I think it's August 21st to the 25th. So that's
Hmm.
exactly 2 months away. Hey, that's right around my birthday. My birthday is like end of August. So yeah. Did you see, with all the Elden Ring stuff? Do you see the quotes from Miyazaki that talked about the difficulty and saying if
I saw something about it.
they lowered the difficulty, it would break the game essentially.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I kind of see what he's saying because you can, with all Souls likes and Soulsborne games, one of the things about them that I really love is that you can break the difficulty by, either over grinding your character. They let you do that. They let you make the game easier for yourself if you want to.
Summon people to play
Yeah,
with you. Yeah.
you can overgrind, and just give yourself a ridiculous HP bar or hit all the caps on all the stats to make it as easy as possible. You can level up the weapons to a ridiculous level. You can look up guides where to find all the smithing stones. You can level up all the summons so that they basically become bosses in their own right. You know, um, so you can tailor the difficulty. And there's all this discourse online about like, is using a summon cheating or is it easy mode? Even though it's like a feature in the game.
I know,
And I
right?
love that. I love that. It's clever though, because it's like you can research and study the game and make it easier for yourself. And it encourages you to do that. It encourages you to discuss with other players how to do that. Like one of my favorite ever game streaming experiences, and I haven't streamed that many games, I suppose, but I loved playing Dark Souls 1 with the Xbox 2 community because like they were in the chat and they were saying like helping me out and giving me tips and stuff, not in a spoilery way, but just sort of like how like the game there's in-game messages. There's in-game message all the time. Like I was playing it earlier, for example, and one of the messages was like look left. And sure enough, to the left, there was a dude hiding in the shadow, waiting to kill my ass. So like the in-game message like helped me. Like it encourages that sort of communication and the camaraderie and all that kind of stuff. I think that's such a great approach to difficulty because it trusts the player. It doesn't treat the player like a baby. It doesn't handhold, but the option's there if you want them. Of course, you can turn all that stuff off. You can play offline. You don't have to use the messages. You don't have to use torrent. I saw people getting mad that you could use torrent to fight the Elden Beast now, for example.
Yeah.
And I saw like all this other stuff. You don't have to use summons. You don't have to use any of the overpowered weapons. I've seen people like speedrunners complete the game using just fist weapons and never getting hit once at level 1. Like, that is just... I don't know what kind of brain you have to be able to play it that well. I remember I set myself a task once. I was gonna try and kill... What's his name? Is it Margit, the first boss? The first major boss, Margit.
I think so, yeah.
I was gonna kill Margit at level 1. I set that challenge for myself. And I went and did it with a samurai dude. And I did it eventually. But it was pretty hard, not leveling up and all that kind of stuff. And then like learning the boss patterns and like learning exactly when to dodge and when to jump and when to parry and all that kind of stuff. And it was really rewarding to play it like that. I just don't have time. I just don't have the time. And I'm really grateful that Elden Ring and Miyazaki and all these games, all the From Software games, or most of them at least, they give you the tools to make it easy for yourself if you so desire. You just have to be willing to Google some things occasionally and read a guide on a website like windowscentral.com. We have many, very many guides for Elden Ring right now. My team is absolutely obsessed with it. I'm really blessed because my entire team absolutely loves Souls-likes. And, they can do all that stuff for me. Yeah, I thought that the difficulty discourse always comes into play. I'm just glad that they get to make the game they want to make at the end of the day. I think that should be what's celebrated. They want to make a difficult game. And they found success with it. At a time where I feel like for a while, it felt like developers felt like they had to make everything super duper easy to get as many players as possible. But when things are just too easy, it's just not memorable or you don't feel that invested in it, Sometimes at least.
Anyways, let me see what else we got here. Yeah, you know what? I think that's yeah, we're gonna move to the Patreon questions now. So if you guys enjoyed the show, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if you're new here. We don't bite. It's super easy to do both and free. So just hit both buttons, hit the like and that subscribe, and let's go over to Patreon. If you want to get your question in last minute, you can do so. We have one here from OMG Turtles. Hey guys, you come home one day and your PC and Series X have disappeared. In its place is a single console you haven't seen before. Choose a console to experience for the first time from start to finish. The games, both first and third party, are released in order. It is the idyllic situation for the console, e.g. no Red Ring of Death, no PSN hacking, and you are cut off from the rest of the world. So no Twitter wars or IGN pieces. It's just you experiencing one console for its entire lifespan. Which console are you going to play? Thanks, guys.
Interesting.
So, okay, so
we can't pick current gen.
We can't pick current gen.
Or PC.
And I'm not going to pick a gen that I've already played. Like, I could say the 360, right? But I went through the entire 360 generation. I'm going to pick a platform I didn't play at all, period, that I didn't own. PS3. Because I didn't own that system. I didn't play any of the games, any of the exclusives on that system. The only ones I ended up playing were later on the PS4 were like Uncharted Collection and I think like God of War 3. So there's a lot of exclusives that Sony put out that were on the PS3 that I would like to play. But if it's not the PS3, I would probably have to say this is an interesting one because it would be tied for the 64 or the Super Nintendo. I didn't own a Super Nintendo. I have never played a Super Nintendo game, but also at the same time I didn't own a 64. And I've only played a few things on the 64. So it would be between that, but like for me it'd be the PS3 or the 64 Super Nintendo. What about you, Jez?
I think one thing I would really have loved to experience is Nintendo nostalgia, because I sort of like, I get the impression that it's just this sort of magical, wonderful thing, and I'm just too old to experience it now or recapture that as a jaded 30-something-year-old. So I would love to go back and experience the Super Nintendo. I think the Super Nintendo generation, and just have access to all the games there and not have to worry about the fact that it's going to bankrupt my family to be in that ecosystem. But if not that, honestly, the PS2, I didn't have a PS2, but during that whole generation, I was just addicted to Unreal Tournament. I missed out on a lot. I sort of became a PC gamer in that era. So like, I did play a lot of PS2 games, but nowhere near as much as I would have liked to. And there's loads of JRPGs, classic JRPGs that I feel like I missed out on. So, and there's other PS2 games that I feel like I missed out on.
Okay.
That are really popular. So yeah, maybe PS2.
All right, we got Florida Brand. What's up, fellas? Happy Friday, and thank God it's the weekend. I hear that. I just got back from traveling for work this week, and I gotta say, I would love an Xbox handheld for times like this. I just hope it's affordable, because in Canada, a lot of the PC handhelds cost close to $1,000. Do you guys think Microsoft will launch the handheld next gen? And do you think it'll be more affordable than the current PC handhelds on the market? Thanks, fellas, and cheers. Have a good weekend. I think it will be a next-gen device. I feel it's a next-gen device, yes. It'll be one of their offerings for whatever next-gen is and whenever that comes. As for pricing, I lean on it being... What's the current price of the ROG Ally?
There's multiple models. The ROG Ally X, I think, is $800.
Maybe not that expensive. How much is like the Steam Deck? $500?
The Steam Deck starts at $499, I think, off the top of my head.
I think you're probably
might be a little bit less.
I think you're probably. I think you're looking at a more expensive handheld, maybe in the $500, $600, $700 range. That's my guess. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Maybe it could be cheaper, but I don't think it is. Unless, what do you think, Jez? I mean.
It's hard to say, because unlike the Asus ROG Ally, it's subsidized, right? So Microsoft, they subsidize the hardware by selling you games and services, and this is going to be it's going to be attached to Game Pass, so they get the money, the ongoing investment there. It's going to be attached to the game sales, so they get the ongoing investment there. So at least in theory, it would be cheaper than some of the other games, some of the other systems on the market. Get sleepy now. But that being said, it depends ultimately how powerful it is. I think personally it'll be comparable in price to Steam Deck, and maybe comparable in power to a Series S, I would hope. Maybe not as powerful as a Series S even. So maybe you're looking at a Steam Deck kind of power level, maybe a bit more powerful. Maybe they use the Z1 Extreme. Maybe they use some custom chip completely. I don't know. But I would like to think it's going to be around the Steam Deck's price point.
Okay.
And it's going to be fully subsidized. I don't think you'll be booting into Windows on it. I think it's going to be a fully Xbox system native handheld. But we'll see.
All right. Silas says, good day, lads. With the regular occurrence of cyber attacks, how safe is player data in games such as World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV? I would think that if all of the player's characters are saved server side, there would be an inherent risk of them being deleted by a nefarious individual. I'm assuming that there are a lot of safeguards in place to save decades of players' works. You would think
Well,
so.
all these servers are held in an array. So it's like if like for example, one server blows up, then the data's sort of exists in multiple places all at once. It's like World of Warcraft's been in operation for 20 years. The only real attacks they've had are, denial of service attacks, where people try and flood the servers with login queries and stuff. Whereas, like, when it comes to player data, I don't think WoW's ever had a breach, ever. They take that shit really seriously. So I don't think you're at risk any more than you would be anywhere else. I mean, one thing since the PS3 hack, I've always sort of made it a point not to permanently save my payment data in any of these services. So like well, I do in PayPal, but like PayPal's entire business model is monetary transactions. So I'd want to believe that PayPal has that shit secured. I'm sure PayPal's probably like one of the most secure platforms on earth, given how much money flows through it. But you don't have to save your payment information there. But there's absolutely no risk to your characters being deleted. There's like backups of backups of backups, all held in a RAID array. So yeah, I don't think there's any risk there.
Okay. James Moore says, do you think the lack of PlayStation games is to budget for games that they feel will make a return?
Well, every game wants to make a return. Every single game that exists. It's not often you get a studio where it's like, oh, we just want to make art and we don't care about the money. It's always about the money. It has to be about the money because that's how you keep the lights on. That's how you pay your developers and stuff like that, Except for maybe like some solo indie projects or whatever. So, I mean, we did talk about this earlier, like with interest rates being what they are, higher than they have been for a long time, especially in, Europe and other countries like the UK, Canada. Cost of living is still really high. And cost of living pushes up your wages, right? Because like there's like a higher competition for like wages because everyone's really conscious about their cost of living. So people are looking for other jobs a lot. And then, companies feel like, well, in order to hire people, we got to give them higher wages. And then companies feel like, oh, everyone's got more money, we'll put the prices up even more. There's just been a wave of greed in capitalism in the last couple of years. Coming out of the pandemic. But it'll even off eventually, probably, maybe. And I think when it does eventually even off and things, become a little bit more chill, hopefully globally, then maybe we'll start moving towards investment era again. And we'll start seeing more, I don't know, eclectic and experimental projects maybe. But I think a lot of companies right now are just playing it safe, like really safe. But I don't know.
I think
it's
it's
just the impression I get.
I think it's just their games cost a lot of money and they take a lot of time. And they had all the stuff going on with live service, and they canceled some of those. And because they canceled some of those, you can't just make a game that quickly to replace it. So now you need to work on something else for the next 4 or 5 years. Which is why
a lot of Sony studios are in some of the most expensive places as well.
Yeah, I mean they talked about that in their little meeting about the costs of deving in California and stuff. So
right.
Yeah. Achievement says, when Phil said, quote, Epic Store on Xbox one day, people questioned why he mentioned Epic Store and not Steam. And maybe there are already talks to bring the Epic Store to Xbox. But if terms were being set, wouldn't he not be able to mention the specific store at all? Maybe that's why he didn't say Steam. Because the terms are being written. Windows has been a good platform for Steam. Wouldn't Valve see how Xbox could expand that philosophy coming from Microsoft as well?
Valve and Microsoft are pretty close. They're both headquartered in a similar location. They're friendly. They work together. Steam depends on
Didn't
Windows.
Gabe work at Microsoft? Isn't he one of those Microsoft millionaires?
Yeah, Gabe's a Microsoft millionaire. He made his money at Microsoft back in the day. So there's a lot of shared DNA and a lot of friendship, I think, between those teams. Um, and I've been on record, of I believe that Steam will be one of the platforms that will be available on Xbox someday. And when Sarah Bond talks about technological leap, she's talking about stuff like that, but also tops and MPUs, onboard AI and all that kind of stuff too. But I think it's also like a change of philosophy of how these platforms operate. I can't remember who said this. There was an interesting tweet the other day where maybe it was today even. I can't remember who said this. So if you said this and I forgot, and I apologize. But someone said like the Matt Booty interview um was almost like addressed all of the FTC's concerns because that
That wasn't
litigation's
me.
still ongoing.
Yeah, that wasn't me.
Yeah, I can't
But
remember who said
I have seen that it addressed all of
it.
the
Yeah.
FTC's concerns, and that still is
Yeah.
ongoing. Yeah.
Yeah. So like if that interview was for that, at least partially for that reason, and because one of the FTC lawyers, one of the big FTC lawyers, they notified that they were pulling out of the case to work on something else, and that was kind of a hint that like it's sort of deprioritized in some form at the FTC because a lot of their arguments are like completely redundant. Like all the marketing, right? Everything about Xbox right now that's out there revolves around the fact they're going multi-platform. There's nothing in there about them taking Call of Duty away from PlayStation or being anti-competitive. Everything out there is about them becoming more platform agnostic. You know, it kind of spoils the whole mentality that the FTC has. So I think like there's some potential that is still a concern. I'm sure if I'm Microsoft, like there's literally tens of billions of dollars riding on this acquisition. Like if by some miracle the FTC was able to undo this deal, it would be an astronomical fuck up to the tune of billions and billions of dollars wasted, thrown away into the ether, and pretty much resetting Xbox's strategy back to ground zero. It'd be a nightmare. It'd be an absolute catastrophe if that happened. So like if I'm Microsoft president Brad Smith, and Brad Smith's sort of in charge of all Microsoft's legal stuff. Brad Smith's a lawyer as well by profession. I'm not taking any chances when there's that much money at stake. Um, but again, the speculation. Um, I don't know. We'll see how it all plays out in the end.
Monkey versus Tramp says, "Evening men. Sony is not showing up to games. Sony is not showing up to Gamescom again this year. Do you think this is due to Sony arrogance or simply they don't have enough to show?" I think it's just that they've internally made that decision that they aren't doing these things. Like they haven't done it since they pulled out of Gamescom in 2019 and they haven't been back. They pulled out of E3. They were like the first one to pull out of E3 before it died.
They don't have to. They're the market leader, and they've also got margin problems. Like, why waste the money? Like, Gamescom is not going to move the needle for them, whereas Microsoft has a lot to prove.
Yeah, Microsoft has a lot to prove, so they have to be there.
Yeah, so giving Sony the benefit of the doubt, I don't think it's necessary because they don't have anything to show.
I mean, they could show up. They could show up with the Until Dawn remake. They could show up with Astrobot. They could show up with Concord. Right? There's games you could show up with, but I think they just don't. It's just you look internally at the time that it was those decisions were made. They stopped going to E3, and they stopped going to Gamescom.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it had anything to do with they don't have anything to show. I think it was just we're just not spending this money anymore. Now you could say, well, that has to do with their games because their games are expensive or whatever. But also, like Jez says, like Europe is theirs and Nintendo's. They don't have to do anything. Xbox is the one that needs to play catch up, so they need to do these sort of things. And even then, it doesn't seem to be working or helping that much. So Sony's just like, it's probably not. It's probably not worth. It's like they look at it as like it's not worth what we would spend to do it for what we would get back.
Mhm.
So there's no reason.
Good it.
So I guess maybe you could say Sony arrogance in that regard, that they don't care about showing up to, a public event that people could try their games. But it's probably just strictly business related. It's just money in and money out. Costs this much to run this shit, and we're not going to see any benefits for it, so we're not going to do it anymore.
I mean, Blizzard cancelled BlizzCon this year because they don't have a lot to show, and it's not worth it. So they're just like, we'll do Gamescom this year and just bring our expansions.
Yeah.
So
and announce StarCraft.
Can you imagine?
Could you imagine that?
Could you imagine
announcing a StarCraft has to be a BlizzCon thing, right? Whenever they do bring back a StarCraft,
they did that at BlizzCon for StarCraft 2, and it was such a moment. It was such a moment.
How long ago is this at this point now? How many years ago?
A long fucking time.
Yeah,
a long time.
A long time.
I remember there's like a famous stream clip. I can't remember his name, but one of the devs from StarCraft has become like a streamer and content creator now. I think he's still a dev too, but he like streams when he's developing. I can't remember his name. It really drives me mad, so I apologize for that. But there's a famous clip of him which I keep seeing on Instagram Shorts where he's talking about how he put out he worked on StarCraft Wings of Liberty, which is one of the expansions for StarCraft 2. And he said that he was saying the point he was making was the reason there's no StarCraft 3 is that the sparkly horse from World of Warcraft microtransactions made more money than the whole ass expansion for StarCraft 2.
Damn.
When Blizzard first added a cosmetic DLC to World of Warcraft, so.
And RTSs really don't have a way to add microtransactions, really.
I mean, they do. I mean, look how many expansions Age of Empires adding new factions and stuff. But I don't know. Do they charge for those, or are they all free? I don't know. I don't know.
I'm not sure. Maybe you have to pay for those, but I don't know. We have Dave Ramos. Oh no, we have Nate Miller. First, I want to say rip to the great Willie Mays. He will be missed. Yeah, the say hey kid. Secondly, I just wanted to wish you all a happy Friday, and I can't wait for State of Decay 3. Well, thank you, Nate. And
State of Decay looks so good.
Jez is
so
drooling for State of Decay 3.
That's my most anticipated Xbox game right now.
Yeah.
Except for Clockwork Revolution, I think.
Dave Ramos says, gents, most happiest of Fridays to you, and a great Xbox 2+1 show with David Jaffe. Here is a question in poem form. Nintendo is red, PlayStation is blue. Do you think we'll get a glimpse of an Xbox handheld before or after the release of the Nintendo Switch 2?
Ooh.
After. I don't think we'll see it before. Nintendo Switch 2 is coming out
imminent.
March of next year, right? Around that time frame.
I don't think confirmed or rumor.
It's rumor. I mean, it's a rumor that it's essentially around that time frame, like March, April, when they launched the Switch back then, in 2017 or whatever year it was. Certainly, I don't think it's going to go to the fall of 2025. Do you?
No.
So I think it'll be like that March, April window, and I don't expect Xbox to reveal a handheld until next year, maybe at their showcase. So I would say after Switch, for sure. Omen says, Jez, with all these new ARM PCs releasing, do you reckon Microsoft might start requiring their own studios to compile ARM native versions so their Game Pass install base doesn't decrease with ARM popularity?
It's a good question, because right now on Windows on ARM, you can't even access their PC store. It only gives you xCloud, which is dumb as hell. Like all the Microsoft Store games, the Win32 games, even though like they should be able to run, and even though they claimed on stage a build that they would run, you can't even access them. They're all turned off. So like the amount of work involved to do those ports natively is insurmountable. That's a huge amount of work. And I don't know what I don't know what Microsoft's doing with regards to that. Because right now, um none of them are even accessible. So I do think like there's work to be done there, but I also think like Xbox has got bigger fish to fry, and there's probably some sort of push and pull between the Windows team and the Xbox team there. But as of right now, it's gaming on ARM is a fucking mess. It is a mess. Lots of games don't work at all, and some of them, like the Windows Store, doesn't even let you download them. So I think the whole Windows on ARM platform in general is just a big mess right now. Microsoft cancelled the Windows recall thing. That's like, I'm surprised that no, we haven't seen any heads roll for that. That is like one of the most spectacular fuck ups I've ever seen Microsoft perform ever.
Yeah.
Um, and but like looking at it now, there's like bugs and Adobe apps don't work, and Adobe just blocked Premiere Pro from running on it because it doesn't work properly.
U.S. government's
Um,
suing Adobe.
yeah, for their shady subscription practices, but
Indeed, indeed.
yeah, I think Windows on ARM will improve over time, but it's got a long way to go, a really, really long way. So if you're looking for a device to buy for for light gaming, you're gonna like an ultrabook that you for work but can still do some light gaming. You're still gonna want Intel, you know. But like later this year, I think is it Meteor Lake? I think the next Intel chipsets are called. The next gen Intel chips have a big focus on power efficiency because of this whole the fear about ARM Windows on ARM.
Mm-hmm.
So like it could be that everything swings back to Intel again, because at least with Intel, you don't have to worry about compatibility issues, right? So I would honestly wait. I know like my colleagues like Dan Rubino and Zach Bowden, they're all really hyped about Windows on ARM, and like they've done. I can see on Slack they're talking about they've been doing benchmarks on the battery life, and they're just blown away. Like, oh my god, I got 22 hours battery life on the Surface Pro, the new Surface laptop or whatever. But I'm someone who's like I still want to be able to do at least some light gaming on these devices, and right now it just seems like it's completely fucked. So I think the potential's there, but we've got a long way to go. I will say though, I found out today, World of Warcraft has a native Windows on ARM version, so at least you could play World of Warcraft on their system. I did not know that, but yeah.
CJ says, "Hey Rand, I saw you love Shogun. I've got 2 episodes left, but so far it's great. My question is, how much are you looking forward to season 3 of The Bear next week?" Oh, dude. I did watch Shogun. It's on Hulu. It's an FX show. Easily one of the best shows in the last 10 years. Masterpiece of television. And if anybody hasn't watched it, do yourself a favor. Grab some popcorn. Binge that shit. 10 episodes. Don't be like Paris and wait to watch it week to week.
Or Paris.
I know. Well, we're gonna discuss that next week on Xbox 2+1.
Yeah, hanging out with Paris.
Hanging out with Paris. But I'm super excited for The Bear because I consider Bear probably the best show on television right now. See, they filmed season 3 and 4 back to back, so we're gonna get season 3. Can't wait. All episodes are dropping at once, as it should be. So yeah, I'll be binging the shit out of Bear when it comes out. Cannot wait for that.
Is it better than Delicious in Dungeon?
I have no idea what that is.
Oh.
Good old Colin says, "Happy it's officially summer." Yeah, that is today. Today is the first day of summer. That's right. Happy it's officially summer day, Rand and Jez. Rand, I think you've admitted you are not much into Halo lore. How deep are you into the lore of Gears of War? Did you read the books and comics? So very much like Halo, I didn't read any of the books. I didn't read any of the comics. So
I actually did read a Gears book. It was about the Pendulum War. I think is it called Ashfo Field, I think?
Pendulum War?
It's about the Pendulum Wars. There's the It's really funny because they talk about how like Emergence Day is such a huge event in Gears canon, but like, um, that it's never really depicted in the games. Like Gears of War 1 is 14 years after
Yeah,
Emergence
14
Day.
years later.
But like the Pendulum Wars are also really, really important to
Yes.
the Gears lore because
That was
the Pendulum Wars,
that was the prologue to Gears 3 if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, it's like a whole last sort of. It's basically a global civil war, essentially, and those are never depicted in any of the games either. And I think they've actually said that they don't want to depict it because it involves human on human combat, which is something
Which is they like
Gears
to avoid, yeah.
they
Unless
like
you're
to
in the
avoid that.
multiplayer.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
even
but
then, like but even in the multiplayer, isn't one team's a locust, right? One team's a humans, one team's
well,
a locust.
yeah, yeah, I guess that's true. Although I think the Pendulum Wars ended and then a couple days later Emergence Day happened. Isn't that how it happens in the lore? Like
I think
basically
two months
2 months
after
later.
the war. I think they said to me at E3, 2 months after,
Yeah.
and then the Pendulum War started. Mm.
But he also says, Jez, about your proposed paranormal podcast? I can recommend a website, Skeptoid, which debunks supernatural mysteries, urban legends, and extraordinary events. So on your podcast, you can introduce the mystery, then use Skeptoid to prove what really happened, and have a really short podcast that doesn't last hours. Hey, what are you trying to say here, Collinwood? We can have a podcast that lasts as long as it takes to get the mail from the mailbox. A Fury J West says, "Good afternoon, gentlemen. Glad to see you didn't get demonetized because of Jaffe. You didn't? Did you not? Were you all good on
No,
that end?
I got demonetized because of the copyright on the intro.
Oh yeah. Well, that's why you just mute it. You just go into the YouTube tools and
No, I dispute it. I dispute it because we own the license for that song. It's just annoying to have to do
on
it
the
every
trailer
single
or
time.
the intro music.
Both.
No, we don't own the license to the intro music.
No, we do. We do. I've got a license for it.
The-
From our good friend Sean.
we own we have the license for the trailer music.
Oh, yeah.
We don't
No,
have.
I don't use that. I use different music. I use some music from YouTube's sound
Okay,
library
because
for
I was
that.
saying we don't have a license for the
Yeah,
for the starting
got
soon
him.
music.
Yeah, I disputed that shit.
Oh yeah. Luke says, "Hi guys. So I returned from a very wet and muddy download festival on Friday. So my question is music related. Do either of you ever go to music gigs and festivals? If so, what's your latest one? What's next on your horizon? For me, I'm going to see Pearl Jam in Manchester next week. Oh, that's cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Man, I haven't been to one, and that kind of goes along with Lee Sanders' question here. He says, "Went and saw the Foo Fighters in London last night. Brilliant gif and echoes my thoughts that they are the best live act out there. What's the best concert you ever been to and why?" So it's kind of two related music things here. I have not been to any music stuff since like 2003. I used to see a lot more of that of music things back then. Like saw Tom Petty, I saw Leonard Skinner, I remember like when Ozfest was going on and Marilyn Manson was a part of it and Slipknot and all this sort of stuff. But I haven't been to a concert since then. So it's probably been 20 years since I've been to a music festival. I don't know. What about you?
For me, I've never been to a festival.
Well, just
An
like a
actual
concert.
festival.
Yeah, well, he says music festivals, gigs,
I think
concerts.
the most recent festival or concert that I went to was it was Slipknot and Korn
Ooh.
in the same gig.
Ooh.
And it was absolutely fantastic.
I can
It was
imagine.
amazing.
I can imagine, yeah.
It was so good. It was so good.
So would you say that's the best concert you've ever been to?
I think it probably is. I also saw Antwoord as well. They were really, really good, but they're super cancelled now. They are
Y-
super, super cancelled.
I would probably say my favorite one I went to was Tom Petty. I don't know. I like Tom Petty a lot. He played a lot of the hits, and it was just a lot of fun. Whereas when you go to Ozfest and stuff, everybody's kind of just moshing around, and it's very angry. Where Tom Petty was very much laid back, and a lot of a lot of drugs were being done back then in the air. So I there's things I remember about Tom Petty very vividly. So I'd probably say that one for sure. Let
That's
me
awesome.
refresh the page to see if we got any late comers here. We have nope, we don't. So
There's some super chats left.
is there? I don't. Oh, okay, we got some. DB Cooper with the 2 says, could the back and pat be tied to a BattleNet issue? Could that be the case? But I mean, do you think they would have solved that with the Diablo thing, right?
Yeah, I mean the BattleNet stuff on Xbox and Windows is a bit of a mess, but I don't think that would necessarily hold it up. Um, but maybe they want to make it a better experience before they go harder in that direction.
Possibly. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Grandman with the 2 says, Jez, when are you popping the question to Mrs. C? That's what I want to know. Some point, I guess.
When I get a place. When we get a place.
Rodrigo with the 2 says, if Gears E-Day succeeds, does it become bigger than Halo?
It already is bigger than Halo.
You think? You know,
I was actually surprised how excited people were for Gears.
I wasn't.
Actually.
Because it's Marcus and Dom, bro. It's nostalgia. You're talking about something that they loved 20 years ago.
No, but even from people that I wouldn't have thought, would be interested in it, like certain game journalists and stuff like that, and also like a lot of the polls that were putting up,
Yeah.
and also the amount of traffic that the trailer got. I think it's in the millions. I usually Xbox trailers don't really do that on YouTube. So like, I think Gears really does have a chance to become bigger than Halo.
It needs to be great. So what about that poll you ran though? Remember, because of my take on Monday, I said my prediction is we don't see Gear 6, that they don't go back to it, and you put up a poll because you were so flustered and angry at me.
Still am.
But that poll was almost like 60-40.
Yeah,
which was shocking.
I mean, I was surprised how unpopular Gears 4 and 5 are actually.
And
someone in my World of Warcraft guild changed their profile picture to Gears of War recently. And I was like, oh wow, you like Gears of War? Like, oh yeah, I'm so hyped for E-Day. And it's like I hated Gears 4 and 5, but I'm really glad that it's going back to Dom and whatever.
yeah.
I think now that I think about it, like, because again, I'm not deeply embedded in the Gears community, so I don't really know how people feel about certain stuff. I really enjoyed Gears 4 and 5, especially Gears 5. I really, really enjoyed it personally, and the Hivebusters and stuff. I think they spread themselves way too thin, trying to do all the different modes. I think Horde mode suffered for it, because I was a big Horde guy back in Gears 4 and back in the day as well. I really hated Gears 5 Horde mode. And I think like that escape mode, they're trying to do too much and spread themselves thin a little bit. But one of the things that I did notice when I was talking to them at E3, or well, Summer Game Fest or whatever, I keep calling it E3. I wish we could just keep calling it E3 forever. But I asked them, why did you go back to calling it Gears of War and not Gears? Because you started calling it Gears for a while.
And that was a Rod. I remember it wasn't the whole thing was Rod wanted to do that with Gears 4, but Phil vetoed it. And then Rod wanted to do it with Gears 5, and they let him do it, right? Just call it Gears.
Yeah, something like that. But what they were telling me was like, it's going to be Gears of War moving forward. We want people to know that we're going back to our roots, and stuff like that. And I just thought, like, is that on the back of this discussion? Is that them sort of hinting like we've heard you about Gears 4 and 5?
Yeah.
Oh, Rand, what
My
do you know?
prediction looking better and better every day. You know, it's funny.
Well, I kind of liked your idea. I would accept this, like if they did Gears 6 as a
Yeah,
DLC.
an expansion to the Gears E Day. They wrap up Gears 6 storyline in a couple hours of an expansion.
Well, this is the thing though. I think like you can't just milk Dom and Marcus forever.
Sure you can.
You've gotta move on eventually.
No, you don't.
No?
You don't have to. They're still doing. God of War is still doing Kratos. God of War has been
He's
around.
immortal.
Yeah, but I'm just saying
He
you
does
would
not die.
But you'd be saying you got to move away from Kratos at some point, and sure they have Atreus, and maybe there's an Atreus game, but I mean he's been around since the PS2 generation, and it's all about Kratos.
Atreus.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to play as Atreus, man.
I'm just
Even I know that.
So we'll see. Got in for Sofa King with the 2 says Pirate Software Pirate Software.
Oh yeah, Pirate Software. That's the guy who worked on StarCraft 2.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sofa King. And
Thank you.
Kiwi Overkill says, Rand,
his channel is awesome.
He says, Rand, have you watched Tulsa King? What a show. I have not. What is Tulsa King? I've never even heard. I'll have to look that up. I have not heard of Tulsa King. I'm currently watching Dark Matter on Apple TV right now.
Ew, Apple.
I have Apple. Apple's got some banger shows, dude. Don't you be?
I have heard good things actually.
Apple's got some good shows. Dark Matter is it's a book. I read the book, and they did a TV show. They're doing a TV show, and the creator of the book is actually writing the TV show. So it's from the book's creator. So you don't really get that. And I'm 4 episodes in out of 9. 9th episode, the season finale is happening next week. And it's starting to get really good, because this is like kind of where the book starts to get really good. I don't want to give away any sort of spoilers or anything, but I'll talk more about it next week, because I'm going to finish it by the show. But if you're looking for a show recommendation, you haven't watched Shogun, watch that. And yeah, I'm currently watching Dark Matter, and we'll see how it goes, and we'll see what next game might pop up. Is it going to be Shadow of the Erdtree, or am I going to realm and get into Cyberpunk? I'm not sure, but something's going to happen. Either way, thank you guys so much for joining us on this latest Xbox 2 podcast, episode 321. We had a lovely time. Jez is going fossil hunting. Will you find anything? Tune in next week to find out.
Trilobites, ammonites. I'm expecting. But who knows? Maybe I'll find some new dinosaur and I'll name it Randosaurus.
Yeah, we'll see what Jez finds next week. For the patrons, we have Xbox 2 Plus 1 coming with Paris Lily on Wednesday, so keep that in mind. We'll post about it on the feed. And until then, everybody have a great weekend. We appreciate each and every one of you, especially the ones listening to this later on iTunes and Spotify. We haven't forgotten you guys either. So, with that said, keep it gaming. Later, guys.
Take care, everybody.